Hey guys, tonight we're not setting sail into the roughest waters history has to offer. No greasy pirates, no splintery ships creaking in the dark, and no sunburnt sailors arguing over treasure that probably never existed. Nope, tonight we're wandering somewhere much quieter, much colder, and far more overlooked. The invisible labor that built noble medieval life. But before we slip into candlelit halls, drafty stone corridors, and mornings that began long before sunrise, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy these slow, thoughtful nighttime journeys. And leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is. Somehow, it's always 2 a.m. somewhere. And honestly, 2 a.m. feels like the perfect hour to think about people who worked endlessly while everyone else slept. Now dim those lights. Turn out a fan for that soft, white noise hum, something like wind brushing against castle walls. Get comfortable, settle into your blankets, and maybe tuck your feet in. Not because imaginary rats are plotting anything tonight, but because medieval ones absolutely were, and they did not respect personal space. Let's pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what really kept medieval noble life running? Not the kings, not the feasts, not the shiny armor or dramatic court politics, but the quiet, exhausting, often invisible work done by servants, laborers, cooks, laundresses, stable hands, and countless others whose names were never written down. Tonight, with Sleepy Oogway as your gentle guide, we're drifting through their world. We'll explore the early mornings spent hauling water, the endless hours scrubbing floors that would be muddy again by noon, the long nights mending clothes by firelight, and the strange routines that kept castles warm, fed, and functioning. We'll see how noble comfort depended entirely on people who rarely enjoyed any comfort at all. And yes, there will be hardship, cold rooms, sore hands, meals that were optimistic at best. But there will also be quiet humor, small complaints, shared jokes, and the very human habit of laughing at misery just to make it bearable. This isn't a story of heroes or battles. It's a story of endurance, of unnoticed effort, of people doing what needed to be done day after day so that someone else could live nobly. So settle in, let your breathing slow. Let the modern world fade away. Tonight, we honor the invisible hands that built medieval life, softly, patiently, and without applause. Now, let us begin.
Chapter 1. Before the Bell Rings. Long before the manor stirs, before the first bell calls the household to life, the pre-dawn cold settles heavily over a narrow medieval annex tucked behind the grand stone walls. The darkness here is thick and unyielding, pressing close to the body like a damp wool cloak. A thin wind slips through cracks in the timber, whispering softly as it passes, carrying with it the bite of night that has not yet loosened its grip. Inside the annex, a dozen weary servants lie packed shoulder to shoulder on rough, rush-stuffed mattresses spread across the floor. There is little space to move, little room to stretch. Every body fits together like pieces of a puzzle, shaped by necessity rather than comfort. Elbows brush ribs, knees press against backs, feet tuck beneath shared blankets that have grown thin from years of use. The mattresses sigh softly when someone shifts, the dried rushes inside rustling faintly like straw in a field. The floor beneath is hard, uneven, and cold, reminding each sleeper that rest here is temporary and shallow. Sleep comes in fragments, light, cautious, easily broken, because the body knows the day ahead will demand more than it can easily give. The air is heavy and stale, filled with the musty, sour mixture of human effort and survival. Sweat clings to skin and wool alike, trapped by layers that were never fully washed, only shaken and worn again. Smoke from last night's kitchen fire lingers stubbornly, woven into hair, blankets, and breath. Somewhere nearby, damp stone adds its own chill scent, grounding the room in the reality of medieval life.
Breathing is slow and uneven. One servant exhales deeply, another coughs softly into a sleeve, careful not to wake the rest. A quiet murmur escapes from someone dreaming, perhaps of warmth, perhaps of home, perhaps of nothing at all. The sounds are small but constant, forming a low rhythm beneath the silence. Blankets are shared, not out of kindness alone, but out of necessity. One tug in the night sends a ripple through the group, redistributing warmth and cold without ceremony. No one complains. Complaints waste energy. Here, endurance is the currency of survival. These servants belong to the unseen machinery of noble life. While lords sleep beneath carved beams and heavy tapestries, warmed by fires fed through the night, the people in this annex gather strength where they can. Their labor will begin before sunrise, hauling water, stoking hearths, preparing meals, cleaning halls, dressing nobles who may never learn their names. For now, the annex remains suspended in the final moments of night. Darkness pools in the corners, broken only by the faintest gray glow seeping through a narrow slit of a window. Dawn is approaching, but it is in no hurry. The cold lingers. The stillness stretches. A servant stirs, carefully sitting up to rub stiff hands together. Fingers ache from yesterday's work, lifting, scrubbing, carrying. Backs feel tight. Feet throb quietly beneath worn linens. Yet no one considers staying down when the day calls. There is work to be done, and delay is rarely forgiven. The air shifts slightly as someone rises, wrapping a cloak around their shoulders. The movement is practiced, silent. Others will follow soon enough, roused by instinct rather than alarm. This is a world where time is measured not by clocks, but by duty. In these moments before the manor wakes, the annex holds a fragile peace. Not comfort, not ease, but a shared understanding. Each servant knows the others will rise too. They are bound together by routine, by fatigue, by the quiet knowledge that the noble world above depends entirely on their invisible effort. And so, in the dark, cold pre-dawn, among shared blankets and sour air, medieval luxury sleeps soundly, resting on the backs of those who wake first. The bell will ring soon, but for now, the servants breathe just a little longer. Chapter 2. The Cozy Chaos of Dusk. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're diving into something warmer than a cup of tweed-flavored tea. And no, I'm not talking about your ex's cooking. It's the picturesque chaos of a medieval village at dusk, a scene filled with rustic charm and the undeniable aroma of burning cabbage, which, let's be honest, smells slightly better than the ghost of that last party you went to. Prepare yourself for a sumptuous adventure. Picture this. The sky is painted in shades of lavender and twilight blue, while the scent of smoldering fires twirls through the air like a medieval dance-off, but with less fun and more smoke. It's the perfect setting for tales of invisible labor and the triumphant endurance of peasant life, where every crack in the ground carries the weight of 1,000 yesterdays, and every flicker from the hearth has a story to tell. So, grab your trusty blanket, dim those lights a tad, and maybe even consider setting a fan on you, because you might start sweating from all the ridiculousness to come. Now, let's take a moment to marvel at the extraordinary lives of medieval villagers. Ever wondered what a peasant's evening routine looked like in 1300? Did they strictly adhere to a no party after dark rule? Or was it more of a last one standing gets the goat situation? What's a bath really like when you have about a gallon of lukewarm water and the closest thing to a rubber duck is your neighbor's farm animal? And speaking of ducks, how many times do you think they mistakenly poured last week's stew just to watch the local wildlife enjoy it instead? Congratulations, you've just woken up in a charming village at dusk, a time when the sun is lazy. What little warmth it bears slowly sinks beneath the horizon, like a reluctant child dodging bedtime. The daily bustle is winding down, and its fascinating chaos everywhere you look. Before you stands a rustic village covered in shades of earthy brown, accentuated by the dim glow of hearth fires, flickering like glimmers of hope amid a sea of shadows. Not far off, you can see the flickering light dancing in the windows of that cozy-looking cottage where everyone has undoubtedly gathered for the evening. A gathering featuring a spectrum of smells that might just convince you said gathering also includes an animal or two you'd prefer not to identify. As you listen closely amidst the crackling of fires, subtle whispers of what feels like angels debating the merits of cabbage recipes waft through the air. Granny Gwendolyn's famous cabbage soup recipe is up for scrutiny once again. Was it the right amount of salt this time? Or did she overdo it on the touch of despair seasoning? You can almost hear the villagers murmuring, "Last time, I thought it had too much cabbage and not enough soul." But worry not. The villagers have gathered with an eye toward brotherly banter and impromptu debates about
Whether to use the full-bodied turnip or commit to a half-hearted potato. Choices, dear friend. They are the essence of life, especially when your harvest sometimes yields only treacherous sprouts, better suited for decoration than consumption. As the evening deepens, you can feel that ghostly chill creeping in, the one that invites you to reflect upon your existence over a questionable stew. But let's not forget our dear friend, the chicken. Yes, the village chickens are permanently milling about, squawking about their grievances, mostly regarding the threat of becoming tomorrow's supper. But there they are, valiantly perched on their eggs while still plotting their next daring escape to freedom. Every sound blends into a relaxing symphony, a combination of crackles from the fire, the distant clucking, and the creaking of that old barn door that might just have some secrets of its own. Like whether it really did hide the farmer's lost chickens, or merely double as a makeshift restroom on particularly desperate days. And speaking of hides and DIY endeavors, if you angling for ambiance, let's talk about those humble cottages. The walls are probably more a mix of mud and dung than anything resembling housing trends. An architectural choice that evokes both cringe and sympathy. It's abundantly clear that home improvement shows have yet to reach this neck of the woods. Sure, they lack insulation, you think, but at least every night is a connection to the earth, right? In truth, as the sun sinks lower and the village settles in, you realize how every groove in the old wood and every furrow in the dark, rich soil tells a tale of endurance and labor. There's warmth in knowing that each creak, each whimper of the timber, carries the weight of centuries. It's like cozying up with a history book, but this one literally breathes, a breathing entity with experiences far more colorful than whatever we pretend to do on Instagram. So, as the twilight descends upon this quaint village, let the moon cast her gentle glow across the earth. Remember, dear dreamers, while your day may be behind you, the stories of this medieval night brim with laughter, camaraderie, and subtly damp animals fighting for their dinner. Together we drift deeper into this charming chaos. Oh, the adventures that only the night can unveil. As shadows stretch and the night thickens, let your imagination take flight with every embrace of darkness, a testament to life lived fully. And there you have it, dear friends. A cozy glimpse into the delightful madness of a medieval village at dusk. Every crack in the wall has a tale to tell. Every hovering ghost leaves you giggling, almost as if they were making a harrowing attempt to steal the last cabbage. If you relished this whimsical journey into the absurdity of medieval life, make sure to like, subscribe, and perhaps share your own tales of culinary mishaps or animal antics in the Comments below. Drift off under the veil of night so you might dream of cabbage disputes and ghostly whispers. Sleep tight and remember, the darkness is always filled with laughter waiting to unfold. Chapter 3. Morning Motivation in a Medieval World. You wake up,
rubbing the sleep from your eyes like a sleepy bear swatting at flies, your dreams of luxurious beds and soft pillows dissipating into the stone walls around you. The air is crisp, perhaps a touch too crisp, as you hear the haunting wail of your neighbors. Nope, not an opera singer, but actually an alarm clock built from a variety of barnyard animals. Indeed, nothing screams, "Rise and shine," like the frantic clucking of hens mixed with an enthusiastic goat trying to impersonate a foghorn. Draped in a coarse wool tunic that feels as appealing as wearing a hedgehog, you squint into the dim light. In this unsettling but cozy corner of your humble stone chamber, also known as the local outbuilding, think shed but without the IKEA assembly guide, you must prepare for the day ahead. As the first rays of the sun peek through gaps in the thatched roof, illuminating a delightful buffet of dust motes, you brace yourself for back-breaking labor and assorted minor miseries. Yes, that's right, dear listener. Welcome to 1300 AD, where the only thing thicker than the fog outside is the layer of grime on everything you own. The day beckons like that persistent friend who always drags you to early morning yoga classes. Come on, it'll be fun, they insist, while you can't help thinking, fun is exactly how you'd describe the process of harvesting crops without modern power tools. Nothing quite like discovering the joys of blisters and pulling hay out of your nose for the next week. Let's talk about breakfast. Picture this, a sizzling hot bowl of, well, if you're lucky, it might be something resembling porridge. One of your neighbors, bless their soul, might have traded a particularly grumpy chicken for a couple of overripe turnips, giving you the latest nutritional offering. One could grow fond of turnips, they say, mostly because they come cheap and last longer than most medieval friendships. Just remember, you're not refining a recipe here. You're just trying to survive another day of relentless work and minor catastrophes. As you chew on your lukewarm turnip porridge, you can't help but wonder, if you were a nobleman feasting on boar roast, would you still be dissatisfied? Imagine those lavish banquets, where one might argue over the perfect seasoning for a fine cut of meat, while outside, you're back to your enduring love affair with, was that a moldy potato? After breakfast, you gather what little strength you have and step outside, ready to tackle the tasks of the day. The earth, stubborn and resistant, offers a warm greeting that feels suspiciously like a muddy embrace. But let's be real, it's more of a thank you for your moisturized hands kind of greeting. As the low sun bathes the lands in a golden hue, it's the perfect setting for some classic medieval trade-offs. Choosing to sleep more only means you'll be paying the price. At the plow, warns the wisdom of the ages, or perhaps just an overly cheerful village elder who hasn't had a proper night's sleep in decades. And so, off you go, hauling the plow behind you, conspicuously aware that your back, unlike a well-oiled medieval machine, is merely an ambitious sack of bones and a dream of ever-achieving comfort. Who needs gym memberships when you have an entire field to cultivate? You ponder, whilst attempting to shift the weight of a remarkably uncooperative cow. Have you ever tried herding livestock? It's utterly akin to nudging your daily caffeine out of a friend's grip in line at a coffee shop. Possible, but good luck with the aftermath. Mid-morning rolls around, and it seems like every creature in the land is conspiring against you. The crows caw from their elevated positions, likely gossiping about the sad state of your hat, if you can even call it that. You might have thought it a protective gear against the sun, but it more closely resembles a very confused hedgehog that got stuck in a patch of bad fashion decisions. Just as you think you've got a grip on the day, you find yourself distracted by the subtle drama happening over at the neighboring farm. It's a riveting tale of cabbages gone rogue, as one brave cabbage dares to sprout rebellious leaves in a rather dramatic fashion, an obvious indication that someone hasn't been paying enough attention. You chuckle at the absurdity of it all, wondering if this would make it as a better storyline than your current mundane plow history. And so, as the sun rises higher, you trudge on, laboring away with sincerity and sarcasm hand in hand. the invisible labor building your noble medieval life. Sure, it may not be the life you envisioned, complete with cozy beds and delightful snooze buttons, but at least you've got yourself a story. Turnips, cabbages, and all. Surely, you think, from the looks of it, your life might just be a sitcom in its own right. Imagine the plot twists. Will your reluctant turnip ever win the acclaimed title of Best Root Vegetable in a Leading Role? Tune in next time to find out.
Chapter 4. Hearthside Hiccups and Coughing Embers. You kneel before a cold hearth, gently blowing on dead embers, as if coaxing them to rise from the grave like a medieval zombie. Coughing, you puff out a fine plume of gray ash that clings to your lungs like a persistent tag-along. It's the kind of adventure that modern air purifiers only dream of. Your chest tightens, the sort of feeling that makes you wonder if you might pass out from a simple hearthside warmth-gathering routine. Spoiler alert, you will not pass out. You're far too stubborn for that. As the first flickers of flame struggle to make their debut, the only sound piercing the stillness is the quiet scrape of your metal poker against the hearth. Let's be honest, this poker doesn't play games of poker in the town tavern. It's more of a workaholic, constantly trying to keep embers alive, or poking fun at your complete inability to make breakfast without creating a small, kitchen-scale disaster. Imagine, if you will, that you're living in a time when fast food meant you launched the careless goat from a barn so it could get to your dinner before you did. Yes, that goat was eating your supper, but at least it was nice enough to leave you the chewy scraps no one else wanted. But back to that hearth, flickering with the enthusiasm of a child trying to show off their drawing skills. Definitely abstract, but definitely not quite what you envisioned. The hearth has seen better days. It reflects the state of your overall well-being, which, let's be real, resembles a patchwork quilt of minor injuries and confusion. A bit like a jigsaw puzzle with several pieces missing, but held together by sheer will and a touch of goat hair. You consider using the poker to defend yourself against life's disappointments, like a stray chicken trying to commandeer your turnips, or a neighbor's cat thinking it owns your entire existence. So, there you sit, desperately attempting to conjure warmth from burnt-out remnants. Heaven help you if a breeze from the cracked window blows through, because, let's face it, every crack in the wall seems to have been constructed with the intention of inviting winter straight into your bones. The locals might call that fresh air, but you're just trying to convince your limbs not to start a civil war. As the pitiful flames catch on a stubborn log, you ponder the question that has likely haunted countless generations. Why is it so uncomfortable to labor for something as trivial as heat? The last time you felt this way was when you tried to snuggle up for warmth in bed, only to remember that your mattress was stuffed with last year's sweet potato harvest as a makeshift relationship therapy. Spoiler, the spuds always end up making you sore. But what about the fine folks of nobility and their lavish, inspiringly impractical lives? Imagine their hearths crackling with more than just desperate hope. You picture them sprawled on oversized rugs, enjoying meals served on ornate platters, chortling as they venture out into the cold just to flaunt their rich furs. If only they had to deal with your current struggle, like watching a sneeze turn into an unintentional game of avoid the ash cloud that emerges every time you puff out a breath of life into the flames. It needs a soundtrack. Maybe a doom-laden score mixed with enthusiastic kazoo solos. The fire, finally blossoming into a more respectable flame, flickers in all sorts of shades you can't name but desperately wish were suitable for your chic medieval peasant collection. A tiniest spark ignites a smattering of hope, akin to finding the last bit of cheese at the bottom of a barrel that's absolutely not meant for cheese. And just before you can celebrate this success, a sudden voom of heat is followed by a not-so-gentle reminder that this is still 1300 AD, where even your warmth feels like it comes with a sequel. Winter, electric boogaloo,
featuring cold toes and uncooperative chickens. But what's life without a little drama? You spot a small pot perched precariously on the hearth, reminiscent of something that might boil soup or answer a long-standing culinary mystery. What's that strange smell? It might be a test of your determination, like trying to bake bread on an ancient stone slab, one dose of humidity away from a rock-hard relic that belongs more in a museum than on your table. Finally, as you sit there, warmed by the flames and stifled by charcoal dust, you realize your heart is now beating to the rhythm of history. Invisible labor shapes your existence, the poking, the coaxing, the acting as if you haven't been inhaling history like a shield maiden of the cold. With each ambivalent puff of air, you are building your own hearth, a warm promise that, come morning, you'll be out there among the turnips, gazing into the unpredictable abyss of medieval life, armed with the same confidence as a rooster strutting his nonsense. Let's not forget, living in 1300 AD is akin to joining a never-ending sitcom. One minute you're coaxing embers, the next you're dodging the bewildered gaze of poultry, pondering the deep mysteries of their existence. Will your humble hearth stay lit long enough for breakfast? Will the ashes retrieve their dramatic revenge? Fear not, dear listener. It's merely another episode of Medieval Life, the ultimate comedy, where the punchline is often just a twist of fate and the last remnants of yesterday's stew.
Chapter 24: The Reluctant Digger. Welcome, dear listener. Today's chapters will warm your heart by the Lord like a blanket fresh out of the dryer, soothing as a cat purring lazily on your lap. It's a comfort we all crave, don't we? Tonight, we're diving into a tale more dramatic than finding a spider in your shoe, and twice as awkward. Picture this: a weary traveler in 1st century Judea trying to figure out if today is a good day for a lavish feast or simply another broth and bread special. Spoiler alert, it usually ends up being broth and bread. Let's cozy up as we journey through ancient lands bursting with stories that are as rich as a chocolate cake and just as irresistible. Now, while you're settling in, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Only if you find delight in this evening's escapades, of course. Turn down the lights and crank up that ceiling fan because you are in for a treat. Imagine for a moment the life of a servant in a wealthy household back then. What was breakfast like without coffee? And did they even have quiet time? How did they manage gossip without social media? Imagine posting to Instagram with just a clay tablet. Thankfully, no hashtags. Congratulations! You've just woken up in the year 28 AD. The sunshine is as relentless as your Aunt Martha at a Thanksgiving gathering, and you're greeted by the sound of bustling streets filled with vendors shouting, "Figs for sale!" or "Fresh fish!" and perhaps even the occasional market dispute. You smell the baked bread wafting through the air, laced with hints of olive oil and garlic, making your stomach growl louder than a troop of hungry sheep. As we step into the story today, we meet our anxious friend, Timothy, a servant, a man with the kind of nerves that would make a cat on a hot tin roof seem chill. Timothy has just been entrusted with one solitary bag of gold from his generous master, Mr. Goldfinger. Unlike his more enterprising fellows, Timothy's strategy involves a curious sense of self-preservation, resembling a turtle diving into its shell at the sight of a passing hawk. You can almost see his quivering hands as he heads toward a secluded spot in the garden, a shady corner where the sun dares not shine. Why take risks when you can nip potential loss in the bud, he reasons with himself. It's the equivalent of keeping your last slice of pizza locked away, hoping no one figures it out. He visualizes that gold coin as the last piece of cheesecake at an all-you-can-eat buffet, precious and overly protected. Timothy gazes at that bag of gold. It's like holding a three-legged goat. He knows it could either lead to fortune or catastrophe. His mind races with what-ifs, each more ludicrous than the last. What if I'm chased by bandits? Or worse,
What if I accidentally become famous? People shouting my name could create a fan club, and who am I? Just the guy who keeps things buried, literally, with the
choice. Let's be real. That ground should win awards for least appealing breakfast setting. As you lean down to grab a handful of that morning feed, the ground below is still as hard as your dreams of becoming a noble. There's a moment of panic. Will the hay mix with the mud and create a sort of medieval smoothie? Spoiler alert, yes. It's a delicate balance of becoming one with the gods of hay and avoiding that horrid mud soup scenario. You can't shake the feeling that as you perform these morning rituals, you might just be the unwitting star of a labor reality show called Dragon's Den, Peasant Edition. Contestants must capture elusive sheep while balancing heaping wheelbarrows of muck without falling face first into a pile of old turnips. The prize? Possibly a feather from a rare bird, or, on a good day, a second woolen tunic that feels like it has a grudge. Then there is a curious expression on the face of another servant, who has just spilled a bucket of what was presumably supposed to be breakfast. It's not just any spill. It's a glorious explosion of porridge mixed with this morning's emotional baggage. You can't avoid thinking that someone should have provided him with the instructional manual titled How to Effectively Manage Your Grains Without Making Everything Go All Woolly-willy. There's a degree of accuracy to be admired in that moment. Everyone gets a laugh, except the kitchen floor, which has just entered a partnership with misery. As the morning progresses, you undertake what can only be described as Olympic-level feats to secure firewood, because after all, you've burned enough calories just trying to trudge through the frosty backyard without contracting frostbite. Finally, you clutch a few logs triumphantly like a medal winner, gloating only slightly at your success in the face of uncooperative layers of wool. Through your diligent efforts, the simple act of warming breakfast feels like a communal hero's journey. And let's be honest, no one told you that simply preparing a meal would feel akin to a quest for the Holy Grail. Will breakfast be served before lunchtime? Tune in next time, folks, when we can all find out just how many chickens you have to negotiate with to achieve that quest. So there you are, in a cold, drafty morning, successfully navigating the woolly dawn dilemmas of a life where every day is just a rousing episode of things you never knew could go so wrong. And as you survey the scene in all its medieval absurdity, you realize, well, at least you've got another day of delights ahead, sprinkled with a good dose of ironic laughter and the constant companionship of wafts of livestock mingling with your hopes and dreams. Chapter 6: The Keykeepers of Chaos. Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we dive deeper than an enthusiastic medieval bard at an open mic night, into the stony corridors where servants tread lightly, much like their hopes of becoming anything other than, well, a medieval servant. Picture it. The year is 1300, and you're shuffling along a stone corridor, your feet becoming intimately acquainted with the chilly stones beneath you, like one forms a bond with an irregularly shaped potato. The walls are sturdy, too sturdy for comfort and too unyielding for any semblance of warmth. Each breath you take lingers in the damp air, mingling with the faint echoes of muffled conversations and the clang of pots that sound like a poorly rehearsed symphony. In this grand estate, where meals are served and noble drama unfolds, you find yourself in the secret back alleys of labor, an invisible world where the faint smell of last night's mystery stew hangs stubbornly in the air, like an unwanted guest that refuses to leave. As you venture deeper, you spot a scullion girl, her fingers practically cold to the bone, quick to scuttle aside, eyes downcast, as if she might turn to stone if someone caught her gaze. She's navigating this hierarchy with the grace of a mouse dodging the family's cat. Fully aware, the stern steward, adorned with enough keys to open every door except the door to respect, is making her way. You can't help but wonder, what's the daily life of a scullion like? Do they aspire to become key carriers themselves,
hoping to unlock a world where dinner actually sits on a table before it's cold enough to be classified as a relic? Or do they just think about what it must be like to be one of the nobles, arms stretched out wide, effortlessly waving off everyone as they're served porridge from a golden bowl? That steward, with his roaring mustache and frown more fearsome than a dragon's glare, plays a pivotal role here. Each jangle of keys sounds like the prelude to a chase scene in a ridiculous comedy as he struts down the corridor, watching everyone like they're characters in his personal medieval soap opera. The steward's presence is intimidating enough that even the floorboards note how lightly one must tread when he's around, lest you provoke the wrath of the ancient stone fortress. So, what odd tasks does a steward manage on a daily basis? Do they memorize the many ways to shove soup into a bowl without splashing it all over themselves? Do they ever daydream of running away to live as a mystical chicken? Or are they deeply entrenched in the world of key management, working tirelessly to ensure that no secret passage becomes the gateway to chaos? But as you contemplate the realities of servitude within these moonlit corridors, you can't help but drift into imaginings of life beyond the soup pots. Here's a riddle for you. Why did the scullion cross the road? To avoid the steward, of course. And let's be honest, with all those keys jingling, he may as well have been jingling his way into your nightmares. Between the scullion's nervous dance away from her tasks and the steward's death grip on the keys, it's a reverse ballet of hierarchies. The servants move about like the characters in a game of chess, always thinking several moves ahead while hoping not to be taken out by their own miscalculations, or worse yet, a rogue potato rolling away from them. As you navigate this meandering court life, you can almost sense the pressure emanating from the nobles above, who truly believe their high-born status affords them the luxury of watching someone else clean the spillage of last night's feast. You could almost mistake it for an art form, having to smile while dishing out gruel that smells like it might have been fermented for a fortnight. Everything here is a display of quiet desperation, much like that feeling you get when you're the last one to be picked for a game of dodgeball. And yet, amid the steely corridors, the hiss of soup, and the demanding presence of hierarchy, there exists a peculiar camaraderie among the servants. They trade jokes like they exchange glances, quickly, cautiously, as if the steward himself might pounce upon them at any moment. Have you ever overheard a conversation come to a halt because someone walked by? It's like the world stops for a flash of scandalous gossip, with each glance dilating with the spice of intrigue. Who dropped the milk this time, and why? Before taking your leave of this scene, you can't help but chuckle at the thought of a major uprising of scullions declaring, "No more cold porridge." Imagine the movement. Scullions marching through the corridors, spoons held high, declaring their right to at least slightly warm food, while the noble class hides behind their tapestries like children trying to avoid sharing their toys. As our brief interlude in the stone corridor winds down, picture this. You, a lowly servant stirring a pot of porridge, dreaming of freedom. Maybe a farm somewhere with actual chickens, and hoping that one day, just one day, you could carry that flamboyant key, and with it, a touch of nobility. But until then, you shall remain the unseen laborers maintaining the noble medieval life, unappreciated, uncelebrated, but undeniably essential, like the overlooked cheese in a banquet spread. So, nestle back into your dreams, letting the echoes of this medieval corridor fade into the distance, wondering what delightful absurdities tomorrow's scullion adventures will bring.
Chapter 25. A Scroll of Regret. Salam alaikum, dear friends. Tonight we delve into a tale that's more unsettling than discovering that your all-you-can-eat buffet has a 2-hour limit. That's right, deep existential dread awaits. So, grab your comfiest pillow, maybe a soothing cup of warm milk, or even a stash of your favorite mint chocolate, and prepare to spiral into the realm of regrets, a place as crowded as your family reunion when free food is involved. Now, let's be real. Have you ever received a report card and thought,
How did I manage to get a D in lunch etiquette? Or found yourself wondering what the consequences would be if you accidentally sent your boss a meme instead of the quarterly report? What if, in the cosmic scale of judgment, we received not just a report card, but an eloquent scroll detailing every little moment of our lives? You know, a scroll with an imaginary typeface that resembles cursive, but reads like a crime report? Let's drop into a fantastical world over 1,400 years ago, in 610 CE, when the desert sky gleamed brighter than your neighbor's latest holiday lights display. Congratulations! You've just woken up among the bustling marketplace of Medina. Picture it: colorful tents, the scent of dates and spices wafting, and the occasional piecemeal debate over who makes the best hummus, a debate fraught with passionate opinions. But tonight, we're not here for culinary disputes. We're here for the momentous arrival of your scroll, the one that unveils your deeds, like uncovering your online shopping habits. Your heart races as you gaze upon other souls, whose laughter melts into nervous whispers, wondering what kind of surprises lie in their own scrolls. Are those the anxious first day of school jitters, or the last-minute panic before the Friday potluck? As you approach the grandiose scales of justice, the mizan, guess what? It's not just fluffy clouds and bubbly angels waiting for you. No. You're standing right in the middle of a cosmic balancing act more serious than your dad talking about back in his day. But hold on. Before you start feeling all suffocated by the pressure, let's consider the stakes. Here stands a figure who once wore the skin of ambition like it was haute couture, the kind adorning your favorite reality TV star. But alas, their existence has now shifted to the other end of the scale. Approaching with shaky hands, they receive their scroll not with delighted anticipation, but the forlorn acceptance of a person who just realized they have 3 minutes to finish a 3-course meal in a restaurant. With an audible gasp, they grip their scroll, warm to the touch, heavy as your auntie's attempts at cooking. Upon opening, they see the lavish detailing of their deeds, the good, the bad, and the downright embarrassing moments, like that time you tried to impress your crush by singing karaoke and accidentally broke the microphone. Yes, those.
Parchment that holds more secrets than the crown jewels. Maybe that's why he's so serious. Every ingredient listed carries a weight that could tip the world into chaos. Imagine scouring through entries of 1.3 barrels of ale, 2.8 sheep, working on the decimals here, and one suspicious-looking gourd that everyone hopes is a gourd and not a minion of doom. If only that gourd's origin story could be as riveting as a medieval epic. As his candle flickers, sending soft glows like polite applause, he pauses and gazes back at the dim light. You can almost hear him musing, "If only I were a noble, I'd be sipping wine instead of monitoring amounts of oat husks." But alas, the keys that dangle from his belt seem to remind him that this is no dream. He's as tethered to his responsibility as a grumpy cat to a cozy chair. Noticing the creaking door that leads out to the hallway, he likely ponders assaulting the nobleman with paperwork like a ballroom dancer armed with javelins. But he instead rolls his eyes and focuses on an inventory of a different hidden treasure. Dried herbs packed tightly into little jars, which are technically not just for flavoring, but also for causing noble accomplishment aspirations. After all, if no one adds a hint of rosemary to your fox stew, can you truly call it a fancy banquet? Back in reality, it dawns on you just how similar this steward's life feels to our own daily grind. Ever spent sleepless nights worrying about your groceries running low, all while dodging the disaster of consumer emails like a knight in battle? You've got to admire the synergy of juggling responsibilities. Much like medieval inventories, modern life requires a keen attention to detail. Instead of barrels of ale, maybe you're organizing your spice cabinet, praying that cumin isn't on the "this and that is out" list. That unexpected gourd could just be your pet hamster, or your one-time roommate who now refuses to leave. As you imagine this scene,
Chuckles ripple through you like warm bread from a nearby bakery. And that's the beauty of it all, the joy hidden behind vital duties that shape our lives, with humor sparkling through every creaky key turn and every missing ingredient. So nestle back into your pillows, letting this whimsical conjugation of duties wash over you as you drift off to sleep. You may just unlock the significance of those little moments that redefine your own life. Just don't expect any of the steward's keys to magically appear at your bedside. In the enchanting chaos of this medieval tapestry, looks like the invisible labor that built this world wasn't so boring after all. And who knows, maybe in your dreams, you'll discover the final frontier, how to have a roller coaster ride through a castle pantry without worrying about a tumble into the stew pot. Until then, sleep soundly, my dear friend, because you've strode down the corridors of duty where absurdity
reigns supreme.
Chapter 8. Marjorie's Midnight Maladies. Hey there, cozy dreamers. Welcome back to our enchanting exploration of the medieval world. Tonight, we dive into something silkier than the Lord's trousers and cozier than a cat in a sunbeam. The overlooked art of laundry. Yes, that's right. We're about to uncover what goes on behind those castle walls when nobody's looking, and when the noble ladies are anxiously waiting for their garments to be dry, and in tip-top shape for the next banquet. Spoiler alert, it involves more labor than you might find in a gym with a questionable heater. Before we embark on this nocturnal adventure, how about a quick reminder to hit that like button, subscribe, and leave a comment, but only if you actually enjoy this quite absurd series of tales. Seriously, no pressure. Now, imagine you're huddled under furs, dimming the lights and turning on a cozy fan, perfect for setting the ambiance as we take a peek into the life of a decidedly tranquil girl named Marjorie. Ever wondered what it was like to be the unfailing keeper of noble garments? Picture this. Do you think those heavy wool garments ever get stale? What's it like carefully avoiding jewelry while straightening out crumpled linens? Have you ever felt more like a human hanger than a capable adult? Do you think Marjorie has launched a revolt against becoming the wardrobe's personal assistant? Take a moment, breathe, and let your thoughts float in the fabric of time. For you've just woken up in 1300 AD, where every tunic has a renaissance of its own. Peering into the luxurious solar of Lady Agatha, the room practically sparkles with a hint of opulence. Marjorie moves like a whisper, her feet barely making a sound on the cold stone floor. If only her chores did the same. The massive wooden chest, intricately carved like a riddle only a Renaissance connoisseur would understand, stands proudly in the center, waiting impatiently for the lady's latest sartorial miracle. As Marjorie carefully lays out fine linens, you can almost hear the fabric sigh. It's as if they're having a conversation. Here we go again, another day in the noble wardrobe. And if the linens could talk, they'd probably advise her to get a career in reality TV, because what's more dramatic than a medieval wardrobe malfunction? Each garment is woven together with stories, secrets, and a lot of sheep shedding tears. Quite literally. Wool, not the friendliest of fibers, gives Marjorie the overwhelming feeling she's been cuddling with a particularly irritable hedgehog. And don't even get her started on the patchwork that somehow finds its way into every noble closet. Tufts of fur, discarded ornaments, and who knows what else from last week's royal feast hiding in the hem of Lady Agatha's gown. Oh look, a leftover pastry from last month. How delightful, Marjorie thinks, rolling her eyes with the hope that the next banquet won't involve sloshing stew all over her hard work. Now here comes the comedic twist. As Marjorie's calloused fingers meticulously sort through lady finery, she's acutely aware of a gold and gem-studded necklace lying dangerously close to the edge of the chest. You'd think she could call upon magic to help her here, but alas, she'd probably be left with 24 hours of frosty silence while dodging accusations of theft. Nothing says clumsy mortal quite like getting stuck with the title of the one who misplaced the lady's pearl necklace into the stew. Mixing the scents of lavender and eau de be careful what you pull out from the bottom of the chest, we find Marjorie in a perpetual state of vigilance, always calculating. Should she risk moving that velvet gown, or leave it as the potential hidden treasure of another laundry day? It's like playing a game of wilderness survival, but within the tangible walls of a castle. Every rustle holds the potential for adventure, a sort of laundry-themed live-action roleplay that nobody signed up for. And when those lovely linens are finally spread just right, heaven's bells, they're fresher than a summer breeze. That is, until the local moth suddenly decides that a family reunion of wool sweaters is in order, setting off chaos. Marjorie stands back in amazement. You might as well call it the moth invasion of 1300 AD. She mutters to herself, "Do I need to add moth slayer to my resume?" Rounding back to her duties, she realizes she has become somewhat of an anthropologist in her own right, observing the garment's behavior like a scholar charting the good and the bad of fabric interactions in social contexts. As she fumbles with her woolen sweater, she can't help but note how much like modern-day retail it is. You want frills but don't want to part with a dime? Good luck with that. At the end of the night, as she folds the last garment with a finesse equivalent to the secret handshake of laundry wizards, Marjorie can't help but chuckle. She is proving that the invisible labor that built the noble medieval life wasn't just about castles and court politics. It was perilously close to being a full-time saga of fabric and fumble. So as you snuggle deeper into your blankets, let the absurdity of Marjorie's midnight maladies lull you into tranquility. After all, sometimes the hidden charms of life can be found right in the folds of a well-crafted gown, or hidden under an eternally stubborn stain. Until next time, sleep peacefully, dear friend, and dream of laundry day without the suspicious moths. Chapter 8. The Illuminated Chamber. Salam alaikum, dear listeners. As you sink deeper into the folds of tranquility, let's take a moment to envision a reality more radiant than the last sunset you admired while stuck in evening traffic. Tonight, we embark on a journey beyond the earthly veil, towards a place far more delightful than all those times you wished your boss would take an extended vacation. Yes, my friends, we're heading to paradise, where deadlines don't exist, and the only thing waiting for you is a buffet of blissful reunions. Now, picture this. Have you ever found yourself simply gazing at all the beautiful things you wish you could have? Maybe while skipping past the salad aisle at the grocery store. Or perhaps you felt that sublime joy when you spot your long-lost friend at a crowded cafe, the unspoken connection sparking joy stronger than your last holiday meal. Well, tonight, my friend, we're about to dive into a reunion that's even better, a cosmic gathering where loved ones meet once again after life's most unpredictable roller coaster ride. Imagine you find yourself in an exceptionally cozy grave chamber. It expands around you, its walls glow with a warm, soft light, like your favorite pair of fuzzy socks fresh out of the dryer. Up ahead, you notice a clear window that opens into the lushest garden you can muster in your imagination, a veritable Pinterest board of greenery. The fragrance of jasmine and ripe fruit dances through the air, wrapping you in comforting hugs like the best kind of Sunday brunch. As you gaze through this glowing portal, you might catch glimpses of loved ones waving with joy, their faces illuminated by a light that makes your heart flutter. This is no ordinary reunion, my friend. It's the ultimate gathering where laughter echoes off celestial walls, mingling with the giggles of children playing beneath coruscating trees. Imagine the melodious chatter, a symphony of hearts reconnecting in that realm of eternal comfort. Just then, two radiant figures, Munkar and Nakir, pop into existence before you. Imagine them bursting into your life like a surprise dance party you never knew you wanted. Their presence is delightful, shimmering with light and a smirk that suggests they might just be up for a little fun. "Ah, welcome," Munkar exclaims, beaming brighter than a toddler spotting their favorite snack. "Are you ready to explore your destination, paradise, where even your most mundane moments blossom into joy? Just think of us as your tour guides, but with a slightly better wardrobe." Don't forget your sunblock, Nakir interjects, a twinkle in his eye. You don't want to come back here all burnt from the comfort of paradise. The understanding between you three is magical, a stark contrast to the last awkward encounter you had at a family reunion, where Uncle Mahmoud mistook your hair for a woolly mammoth, and everyone laughed uncomfortably around them.
Crackling of the fire, bubbling cauldrons, and the never-ending clatter of pots and pans. It's a bit like a concert, but with more screaming and less music. It's chaos. It's an avalanche of stress and sweat. You can almost taste the charred endings as Reginald barks orders, a foul concoction rising and falling over the fire pit like a phoenix that's lost all sense of direction. Let's talk smells, shall we? It's a heady mix of spices competing for attention, like a wrestling match between cinnamon and garlic. You sense the stew's essence. 1 part mystery meat, was that a piece of the last knight who tried to escape? 3 parts swamp water, and a dash of what we will kindly refer to as, we know what went in, but we'd rather not talk about it. If culinary artistry means creating a dish that looks like an afterthought from a 3-legged frog's wedding banquet, Reginald could win an award. Award for worst kitchen decisions? Check. And oh, you've arrived just in time for the pièce de résistance, the noble fish pie. It's said that if the fish used in this glorious creation was reasonably fresh, it might smell like the pearly shores of spring. But alas, in a house as grand as this, a delightful fish might have just swum through the moat a few days ago and decided to take a permanent rest. To add to the absurdity, imagine Reginald dropping ingredients with the deftness of a bricklayer tossing fresh bread to the floor. "Clean that up," he roars, and Bertie gulps as he sighs the life of a medieval kitchen assistant into a time vortex, hoping to one day be free and far away from this culinary hellscape. Just when you think it couldn't get any more chaotic, burned sheep trotters make their way to the counter, hot like a blacksmith's forge. "Bertie, get a move on!" Reginald barks again, letting out a sound that travels through the kitchen like the town crier announcing an invasion. Stepping on what must be at least 3 peasants' worth of spilled flour, you guarantee he's leaving a murky trail that will haunt kitchens for centuries. As chaos ensues, amid the cacophony, you might just glimpse the magic of it all. Examine the hustle and bustle, the cooks and scullery maids, all dutifully creating meals while spinning tales of horror and triumph. Some days, they might even experience a blissful concoction that doesn't resemble something that might come alive at midnight. And there you lie, wrapped within this absurd ecosystem, as Chef Reginald clambers around more frantically than a squirrel guarding its acorns. The heat, soot, and culinary calamities all meld and swirl around you. Remember, dear listener, the unseen labor that built the noble medieval life is rarely a glorious spectacle. Sometimes it's a slammed door and a waterlogged carrot that could make even the local stew entertain onlookers. So let Reginald's inspired chaos and Bertie's unending clumsiness whisk you away to dreamland. Sweet friend, you might just awaken convinced there's still smoke in your hair and the aroma of burnt pies guiding your morning, while you ponder why the kitchen you have suddenly feels far less appealing than the mythical cauldron of doom you've just left behind. Sweet dreams of medieval kitchens, where the labor is real and the outcomes sometimes questionable. Chapter 1. Before the Bell Rings. Long before the manor stirs, before the first bell calls the household to life, the pre-dawn cold settles heavily over a narrow medieval annex tucked behind the grand stone walls. The darkness here is thick and unyielding, pressing close to the body like a damp wool cloak. A thin wind slips through cracks in the timber, whispering softly as it passes, carrying with it the bite of night that has not yet loosened its grip. Inside the annex, a dozen weary servants lie packed shoulder to shoulder on rough, rush-stuffed mattresses spread across the floor. There is little space to move, little room to stretch,
Every body fits together like pieces of a puzzle, shaped by necessity rather than comfort. Elbows brush ribs, knees press against backs, feet tuck beneath shared blankets that have grown thin from years of use. The mattresses sigh softly when someone shifts, the dried rushes inside rustling faintly like straw in a field. The floor beneath is hard, uneven, and cold, reminding each sleeper that rest here is temporary and shallow. Sleep comes in fragments, light, cautious, easily broken, because the body knows the day ahead will demand more than it can easily give. The air is heavy and stale, filled with the musty, sour mixture of human effort and survival. Sweat clings to skin and wool alike, trapped by layers that were never fully washed, only shaken and worn again. Smoke from last night's kitchen fire lingers stubbornly, woven into hair, blankets, and breath. Somewhere nearby, damp stone adds its own chill scent, grounding the room in the reality of medieval life. Breathing is slow and uneven. One servant exhales deeply, another coughs softly into a sleeve, careful not to wake the rest. A quiet murmur escapes from someone dreaming, perhaps of warmth, perhaps of home, perhaps of nothing at all. The sounds are small but constant, forming a low rhythm beneath the silence. Blankets are shared, not out of kindness alone, but out of necessity. One tug in the night sends a ripple through the group, redistributing warmth and cold without ceremony. No one complains. Complaints waste energy. Here, endurance is the currency of survival. These servants belong to the unseen machinery of noble life. While lords sleep beneath carved beams and heavy tapestries, warmed by fires fed through the night, the people in this annex gather strength where they can. Their labor will begin before sunrise, hauling water, stoking hearths, preparing meals, cleaning halls, dressing nobles who may never learn their names. For now, the annex remains suspended in the final moments of night. Darkness pools in the corners, broken only by the faintest gray glow seeping through a narrow slit of a window. Dawn is approaching, but it is in no hurry. The cold lingers, the stillness stretches. A servant stirs, carefully sitting up to rub stiff hands together. Fingers ache from yesterday's work, lifting, scrubbing, carrying. Backs includes horse's hooves and mystery stew. "Get on with it, man," he bellows. "If that leg isn't cooked perfectly, we may need to resurrect the beast for next week's dinner." There's something significantly oppressive about the heat wafting from the roaring fire. The flames dance like trolls at a festival, and somewhere, even the goats outside are glaring at their impending fate with envy. Benedict's brow glistens with perspiration, pooling in a tiny puddle that could probably water a small herb garden if ever lucky enough to be harvested. Now, let's chat about that mutton. It's not just digging its heels into being perfectly roasted, it's practically morphed into a medieval celebrity. Swinging there, it embodies the essence of a noble banquet, succulent, juicy, and surrounded by the sort of confusion that makes you question the choices of your ancestors. Ever pondered how they managed to prepare meat without resorting to modern conveniences like thyme, or a flavorful marinade that doesn't taste like regret? If ever you've been tempted by a mass of roasted something that could easily be mistaken for a woolly mammoth, well, welcome to the rich tapestry of medieval dining. And just as you think life can't get absurdier, along comes the aroma, the intoxicating essence of roasted meat mixed with the unmistakable dread of trampled veggies lingering in the background. Benedict pivots, only for the smoke to envelop him, forcing him into a coughing fit that would make even the most seasoned chef question life choices. "Now that's the sound of success," Reginald snorts, his hands on his hips as though they've just won the battle against mediocrity. "Breathe it in, my lad. Breathe it all in." As the heat of the fire begins to threaten his very existence, poor Benedict contemplates whether he should take a sip from one of Reginald's special brews, the kind that might end with him forgetting his own name. In the face of pressure, He takes a deep breath, focused, channeling every ounce of concentration to ensure that leg of mutton doesn't end up as the punchline for tomorrow's dinner table gossip. Picture the scene. It's the very heart of chaos. The various pots bubble with mischievous vigor. The air is thick with a haze of foolish hopes and dreams. Just then, one of the kitchen wenches elegantly trips over a rivulet of spilled broth, sending her and a procession of vegetables skittering across the floor. It's a direct homage to a scene you might see today on a slapstick comedy show, only with more garlic and slightly fewer pratfalls. Yet, amid this comical catastrophe, one can almost taste victory in the air. The sweat and laughter of the kitchen staff blend harmoniously into the fabric of the leg of mutton, as it hangs there, imbued with the turmoil and triumph of daily life in the medieval realm. And as you lie there, feeling the warmth of this chaotic kitchen seep into your very
essence, remember, nightly battles of the culinary kind may not always yield the finest results, but they create stories worth savoring, all seasoned with a generous dash of absurd hilarity. In the end, it may not just be the mutton that moans. It's the spirit of hard labor, laughter, and a pinch of whimsy that gives life its flavor, even in the strangest of times. Chapter 11. The Rushy Revelry. Hey, cozy adventurers! Tonight, we're diving into something more refreshing than an unexpected splash in a muddy puddle and more fragrant than Grandma's herbal stash gone rogue. Yes, it's the glamorous art of floor dressing in a grand medieval hall. Imagine young girls, armed with handfuls of rushes and fragrant herbs, embarking on an epic mission to mask the ancient odors lingering like bad jokes at a feast. Now, these rushes aren't just your average horticultural decorations. No, they're the unsung heroes of medieval life, fighting valiantly against the oppressive scent of stale sweat and something suspiciously akin to unwashed armor. Picture it, the Great Hall, an expanse seemingly filled with the echoes of history, and beforehand, a rather smelly one at that. The air is thick, like your aunt's Thanksgiving gravy. But fear not, these brave souls are about to uplift that atmosphere more effectively than a court jester with a fart joke. Did you remember to sprinkle in the lavender? One girl nudges the other, as if it were a life or death matter. Or was that last week's ancient rosemary? Oh, the shame. To set the scene, you find yourself in a fantastic medieval castle, where the ceilings are so high that even the greatest jesters hardly reach them on a Wednesday morning without good reason. The enormous fireplace, almost a social hub of its own, is crackling like gossip among the nobles, sending a dance of smoke spiraling into the rafters. And here are our young florists, hands laden with nature's finest, transforming this noble space from a mere echo chamber of forgotten feasts into a fragrant roller coaster ride. Now, let's talk about those rushes. Fresh, lush, and, let's be honest, a bit slippery. Imagine treading on a carpet made of nature's finest slip-and-slide materials. You might wonder, how many medieval slips did it take to take this gamble with wet herbs? Well, my friend, the answer is shrouded in as much mystery as a knight's decision to polish his armor before battle. It's like asking how many wooden spoons a cook must break to perfect the stir. As the young girls sprinkle these fragrant goodies with the precision of a catapult engineer, they think the noble folk won't notice the distinct aroma of previous debacles beneath their new foliage. After all, nothing says, "I care," quite like a floor that smells of delectable lavender intermingled with the traces of yesterday's foot odor. A heady mix only the brave or truly desperate would dare to appreciate. Can you imagine explaining that to a dinner guest? "Oh, do come in. The floor is freshly sprinkled with lavender and, yesterday's roast, I believe." Quite the sophisticated concoction, wouldn't you say? As the girls sweep and strew, you can hear the echoes of the hall's past. Birds once flitted about, children scampered, and nobles would stumble through, probably convinced they were still the life of the party,
even after a few too many tankards of questionable ale. And here's a fun question for you. How many visionaries does it take to justify adding rushes to a floor? Well, when you see them tumble in a graceful ballet of tumbling and giggles, one might argue they're discovering a newfound respect for living decor and their own gravitational limits. Oops, one girl exclaims as her foot gets tangled, sending her tumbling with a flamboyant flair, part medieval ruffles and part unintentional pratfall. At least the rushes are soft? Your heart swells with hope for her, as you think this full rotisserie could be the beginning of a trend, a new social movement. Rush your way to nobility. But before you envision them all rising to stardom as culinary icons, let's face the reality. Starring in The Great Rush Bake-Off is about as likely as convincing a knight that a bouquet is a suitable weapon in battle. And speaking of battle, out from the shadowy corners of the hall emerges Lord Grimwald, an imposing figure with a beard that could house a family of birds. He takes one deep sniff of his surroundings, eyebrows raised with the inner turmoil of a seasoned warrior attempting to interpret a freshly baked pie. Good heavens, what sorcery stirs here? He booms across the expanse, surely regretting every decision that brought him into the proximity of, well, fragrant herbal liaisons. The poor girls scramble, hastily adjusting their wreath of lavender like their very lives depend on it. Spoiler, they probably do. "Oh, my lord," one stammers, her voice dripping with creativity. "We're just revitalizing the ambience. Isn't it aromatic?" In reality, if there's one thing that aroma encapsulates, it's the spirit of cautious optimism. For a moment, it's like a scene plucked from an elaborate historical farce. Lords pressured to pretend they love everything, young girls teetering on the edge of what is sure to be historical slapstick. Life is a stage, and this hall is no enigma. The rushes are transforming from mere decoration to actual participants in a crackling drama, an inanimate force attending the banquet of life. "Welcome, noble guests. Please step lightly. The rushes are slippery, slippery as promises made by a bard after too many goblets of mead." But before we meander off to the banquets and beyond, let's savor this moment while we can. As the layers of rushes mask not only the hall's odors, but also the lingering histories of those who danced before them, you realize this is more than simply cleaning, a form of reverent artistry. And just like that, in one magnificent rush of laughter, and let's be honest, some near tumbles, the hall is ready for the evening's debaucheries. In this chaotic kingdom, even amid the grime and stench, there's a beauty to be found, if you can get past your losing battle with floor slips. Now, as you lie cozy
In your nest of blankets, take a moment to laugh softly at this noble endeavor. It's another quirky chapter in the saga of medieval life, a reminder that the most profound moments may be soaked in laughter, a hint of lavender, and a sprinkle of complete chaos. Chapter 12. The Toll of the Calloused Bell. Hey there, sleepy nights and cozy adventurers. As we settle into the gentle embrace of moonlit history, prepare yourself for something more impactful than your uncle's ghost story on Thanksgiving. The delightful stagger of rising in medieval society. Picture this: a heavy, silent bell, like the ancient guardian of morning's peace, hangs solemnly in the chapel tower, its silhouette a stark contrast against a dark, silver-edged eastern sky. Suddenly, it tolls. Ah yes, that low, soulful bellow breaks the stillness, resounding across the castle grounds like a rather grumpy rooster who's had just a bit too much mead the night before. It calls for you. Nay, it demands that you stir into motion, whether you're ready or not. What does it say? Get up, my slumbering friends, for another day of noble pursuits and questionable decisions awaits. What kind of person wakes up to such a sound?
Have you ever thought about it? Do you envision a dapper lord sprawled out on a bed of straw, dreaming of grand conquests before the bell brings him back to reality like an annoying alarm clock? Or perhaps a weary peasant, groaning as he rolls out of a hay-stuffed sack while mentally preparing to face the backlash of a day that will likely be filled with the chemically interesting blend of mud and livestock? Let's take it up a notch. Would you consider the early risers among the nobility who must navigate all the delicate tasks of grooming their, dare I say, glorious hairdos, while avoiding the mistaken identity of a feathered creature? After all, medieval hairstyles often resembled elaborate bird nests. "Not a crow, just me," they might say, as they fluff and smooth their locks in the dim light of the chapel's drafty keep. Thus begins a new day in the late Middle Ages. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1300 AD, a time when life was both laborious and ludicrous, much like trying to juggle your responsibilities whilst dodging your neighbor's goat. You stretch your arms wide, feeling the rush of freedom, or perhaps the tight grip of an old wool cloak that has seen better days. Speaking of cloaks, did you know that the average medieval household was filled with the delightful aroma of, well, unexpected surprises? Did they have air fresheners back then? Nope. Instead, they had every conceivable scent lingering like a ghostly fog. Baked bread, stubborn body odor, and let's not forget the weekly fish stew that seemed to haunt the kitchen. What was that medieval equivalent of a Febreze? A basket of herbs tossed into a corner and a sincere prayer? And now, picture yourself tiptoeing through the chilly castle hallways as you flick on the lights. Oh wait, sorry. I meant you fumble around in darkness because candles are too expensive and you've somehow stepped on something wet. Was that mud? Or did you just seal the fate of a rogue rat? Who knows? Let's take a moment to appreciate the royal soundscape of 1300 AD. The bell tolling solemnly, the echo of your squishy footfalls, and a distant catfight orchestrated by whatever royal feline had claimed superiority over the castle's span of territory. Someone should tell them that there are better ways to garner attention than actual physical combat. Oh yes, the bell tolls again. Get your behind in gear, it seems to say, as you wipe your feet to get rid of that, whatever it was. Because today, you'll prepare for another round of delightful medieval chores. From farming, possibly losing a finger in the process, to fending off wild ambitions, or a wild boar, the to-do list stretches out longer than a king's holiday feast, complete with all the sauces and joy of a good old roasted turnip. And as you wander over to your friends, some hapless knights attempting to wield dull swords for no discernible reason, and peasants looking simultaneously triumphant and terrorized, it's a smorgasbord of noble chaos. This is what honor looks like, I guess, you muse, suppressing a chuckle. But say, what's that smell? Is it fresh bread? No, the baker's luck today has been akin to your recent attempts at online dating, full of promise, yet somehow burned beyond recognition. Instead, you might find yourself compelled into the kitchen to aid the neighbors, waving a cloth like a flag of truce as the baker prepares to fling yet another large dough ball in frustration. You wonder if they should just start taking numbers. Amidst the bustling, you catch a glance at the old herbalist, who assumes you've accidentally wandered into a marketplace with her noxious concoctions. What's wrong, dear? Did a rat jump out at you? Or simply wake you too early for your taste? She says, side-eyeing you as you try to quietly tiptoe away. What is it about morning routines that seem to fill your life with absurdity in every corner? You imagine how much simplified life could be without a kernel of silliness? But alas, this is medieval life. The absurdity, the humor, and the whiff of something unidentified keep each moment tinged with laughter, begging for grace and joy amidst the chaos. So, dear adventurer, find comfort in the call of the heavy bell. Remember that while mornings might be tough, they're also a blend of delightful humor and silly quirks, and watching noble folk tackle their daily misadventures is always worth a sneaky smile as you drift back into your dreams. Rest easy, for in this world of time-hopping, laughter is still the best armor to brave the absurdity of life. A life where even the most calamitous days can bring joy wrapped in lavender and hay. Sweet dreams await as we drift toward another chapter in this tale. Let's continue our journey into life filled with endless laughter, intrigue, and more surprises than a jester's bag of tricks.
Chapter 13: Prayer and Polyester Cloaks. Hey guys, welcome back to our medieval slumber party, where we trade in your average bedtime story for something as absurd as trying to microwave a snowman. Tonight, we dive into something more soothing than a warm bowl of oatmeal on a frosty morning: the delicate rituals of prayer among the nobility in 1300 AD. So imagine this: you're snuggled beneath your 5 layers of wool and dreaming about elegant feasts, when suddenly you find yourself transported to a grand stone chapel. Yes, the kind with ceilings higher than your expectations for your kid's report card. Vaulted arches reaching skyward, whispering secrets among themselves, and deep corners casting shadows that seem to hide yesterday's drama. Now, if you're anything like me, you've probably started wondering how these medieval nobles got their heads on straight. Did they have personal stylists hoisting them into those embroidered cloaks? Or was everyone just really good at draping fabric over their shoulders with the flair of a runway model? Sorry, which century is it again? Are we at a fashion show in Milan? Or is that just the morning prayer service? But before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe toss a comment below if any of this tickled your funny bone. Only if you actually enjoy this, though. No pressure. I promise not to send the medieval equivalent of a spam mailer after you. Now, dim those lights, turn on a fan for that extra cozy ambiance, and get comfortable. Let's ponder a few bizarre questions here. Ever wondered how people knelt for hours on cold stone floors gripping a prayer book that seems more like a hefty tome of boredom than divine wisdom? Or why the nobles had to muster the energy to keep their cloaks spotless while they were in the middle of deciding who was more annoying, the miller or that one uncle who won't stop bragging about how he's the best archer since William Tell? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1300 AD, nestled in the heart of a noble family's chapel, where morning prayers have become an elaborate spectacle resembling a very slow game of charades. As daylight peeks through the high, colorful windows, perhaps you can hear the subtle shuffle of over-the-top clothing as the entire family kneels on plush, velvet cushions, looking for all the world like they've just stumbled out of a designer catalog. Cloaks so richly embroidered they might as well be used as a tapestry. Can you smell the faint mixture of incense wafting through the air, mingling peculiarly with the remnants of last night's fish stew? Ah yes, the aromatic representation of the noble life, soulful yet slightly stinky. And in the shadows lie a few permitted servants, standing as still as statues. One can argue their lives were akin to playing statues far too often. They're counting minutes like they're sheep, wondering if their masters will ever say something other than a solemn prayer, while trying to find joy in every minute that ticked by lazily in the chapel's chilly silence. Do they even know what a clock is? They might as well be timing the sunrise, which happens with all the spontaneity of your cat's decision to finally seek affection at 2 a.m. Speaking of cat-like behaviors, let's talk about family dynamics here. Picture the noble children fidgeting, their minds racing with thoughts like, what if I forgot to feed the royal goldfish last night? Or, did Sir Percival actually just sneeze during prayer? Is that a sin? If there were anything more contagious than a medieval cold, it was the awkwardness of being stuck in a chapel while trying to look holy. It's not like they could sneak out, swathed in all that rich fabric, for a quick jaunt to the nearest tavern for a pint of ale. No, the chapel was your stage, and these rows of velvet cushions
were nothing less than a performance piece in the grand play of medieval life. Then, when the time came for reciting the Our Father, imagine everyone mouthing the words as if they were reciting the world's longest grocery list. When is this over? I need to shake out my legs. But alas, they hold on, like crusaders chiseling out their own freedom beneath layers of fine wool. And so, as the prayers wafted through the stone arches, you can only imagine multiple kingdoms' worth of thoughts swirling around. What's for breakfast? Would it involve the royal gruel or something slightly better, though nothing so extravagant as peaches and cream? That would require favor from the fruit gods, a gamble against the mood of the nature spirits. As prayers echoed like a musical scale gone awry, you, in your newfound noble robe, might find it's a tad stuffy. Did they forget that we humans require some level of airflow to operate correctly? Or are they saving the ventilation for later? Perhaps it's the cloaks that stifle any semblance of comfort, the equivalent of stepping into a sauna while still bundled in winter pajamas. Talk about fashion meeting form with a very sweaty embrace. But fret not. At the end of this morning ritual, when it could all go wonderfully wrong with one annoying amen, there lies the path to breakfast, or at least a communal plate of porridge that looks suspiciously similar to that blend of hay you tried to use for bedding last night. Ah yes, the joys of noble life, looking fabulous while being perpetually hungry. So let your mind wander as I drift into the next chapter of this delightful medieval misadventure. Remember, even high-born nobles had to bear the pain of awkward morning prayers and spiraling familial drama. With laughter as your trusty sidekick, embark on the next leg of our whimsical journey. Who knows what chaos and chuckles await just around the corner.
Chapter 14, The Heart of the Manor, A Life of Invisible Labor. Ah, the noble manor, a proud stone edifice rising majestically against the backdrop of an endless green countryside, looking for all the world like it just strutted off a Renaissance painting, while insisting that it is the crown jewel of all manor houses. But let's not be fooled. This grand structure is less like a castle and more like a living organism, one with all the personality of a grumpy cat and the complexity of a mad scientist's experiment gone slightly awry. It's a place where walls can feel like they're breathing, windows flutter like ancient wings, and the very air is filled with a sense of both status and suffocating anxiety. Believe me when I say, you've got the entire structure buzzing with activity. Unless you've hit a particularly quiet hour, of course, when even the mice are too tired to scurry around. In truth, those thick stone walls are resplendent arteries of existence, pumping life and sanity through their channels with the grace of a herd of stampeding bulls. And what fuels this splendid beast? Why, the tireless servants, of course. The unsung heroes lurking behind the grand tapestries and velvet curtains, moving about like over-caffeinated ants, keeping the whole operation running smoothly. You might say they're the blood of this noble body, only far less romantic and potentially more prone to the odd, rotten vegetable encounter. Let's visualize this. Before dawn, while everyone else is blissfully ensconced in their feather-stuffed beds, dreaming about their upcoming royal endeavors, or dodging the attentions of a particularly clingy squirrel, the servants are already knee-deep in their daily chaos. Have you ever had to scrub a floor so diligently that the cow dung starts to resemble Art Deco? That's just part of the job description for them. Every morning, they embark upon a quest that rivals the most ambitious Arthurian legend, the retrieval of cleanliness from the depths of the kitchen. It's like trying to pull the sword from the stone, except the stone is several decades of grease, and to the victor goes not the kingdom, but a loaf of stale bread. And speaking of bread, let's not forget the culinary capes worn by the kitchen staff, tattered gowns and mismatched aprons that would make even the finest fashion critics weep with laughter and sympathy. The smell of baking bread wafts through the manor,
an inviting aroma that misleads the nobles into thinking their 8-course meal will be a delightful experience. Little do they know, the true heroes involved have become intimately acquainted with the dubious charms of the village market, where haggling is as common as the sun rising, and just as essential to daily life. Imagine yourself awakening to the echoing clatter of pots and pans, which you may think is the soundtrack to a medieval kitchen symphony. You find yourself wishing you had earplugs, because the maestro, who we shall
affectionately call Chef Grimace, sounds like a dragon with a sore throat as he yells at hapless apprentices who are about as competent as a 3-legged chicken trying to navigate a maze. Each command thrown at them is punctuated by the scent of roasted peasant, determined not to go down as a mere disappearing meat. As life pulses between walls of timber and stone, the very atmosphere vibrates with stories, muffled whispers of indignation from the gardener whose prized cabbage was mistaken for wild greens during banquet preparations. It's a miracle he hasn't run away and joined the circus, though it's possible he thinks he already has, with the way life at the manor rolls out. "Every day's a different act," he might say. "Yesterday I was juggling potatoes, today I'm battling frost, and tomorrow? Who knows? A bog monster in the muddy fields." And then there are the laundry maids, tirelessly scrubbing out those rich and vibrant cloaks. Have you ever attempted to scrub out a wine stain from a delicate garment while the noble owner stands over you like a concerned hawk, judging your every move? Losing the battle means not just facing wrath, but perhaps an unwanted promotion into the exquisite ranks of tatters. Like being thrust into the court of chaos, each garment they handle has more layers of drama than the average daytime soap opera. Now, back to our living manor. Picture it resting quietly at the end of the day, basking in a brief moment of stillness, only to hear a soft creak, like a gentle voice laughing at the audacity of nature itself. The walls hum with laughter, irritation, and every stolen moment experienced by the servants within. It's almost as if the manor itself can hear the ridiculous plight of its inhabitants, the way a friend might chuckle at your attempts to keep your life in order by color-coding your closet, only to realize you had a sock left in the bath. And so, the atmosphere dances with this delightful absurdity. The noble estate, though grand in stature, is nothing without the life pulsing through it. Far from mere stone and timber, it embodies a secret kinship, a vibrant commentary on life's ridiculousness, dressed in the finery of the age. As you drift off to sleep tonight, let this whimsical picture of widespread medieval chaos wrap around you like a worn but beloved cloak. Because, dear dreamer, under the exquisite embroidery lies the heartfelt labor that keeps this world spinning. And who would expect anything less from the noble life? The dismount between dreams and laughter might just provide the perfect mix. And you'll need that as we navigate further into this tapestry of history, hidden labor, and the delightful absurdity of the medieval experience. So sleep well, and join me as we unravel more enchanting tales, the kind they never tell you while scrubbing potato stains from the finest dining ware. Chapter 15. The Kitchen Catastrophe. Odes to Scullions and Sharp Blades. Hey guys, tonight we venture into a realm that's sharper than your ex's remarks at a party. The medieval kitchen circa 1300 AD. Have you ever found yourself pondering how many ways one can accidentally burn a loaf of bread? Or wondered if those kitchen smells, somewhere between burnt hair and an angry skunk, could really inspire a new fragrance line? Well, if you're ready to dive into the smoke-filled abyss of culinary chaos, you're in for a treat. But first, a quick reminder. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy this charming little journey through history, of course. Now, take a deep breath, dim those lights, and picture yourself in an age where washing your hands meant dipping them in last night's soup. A question for you. Ever tried to serve an 8-course meal while dodging flying vegetables hurled by an irate chef?
How about accidentally mistaking a rat for a baguette? Or does the thought of spinning hay into a fresh dinner roll tickle your fancy? What about that delightful moment when one of the scullions, our brave but befuddled kitchen staff, discovered that a sharp knife wasn't just a decoration, but also a very real threat? Congratulations! You've just woken up in the bustling chaos of the late medieval manor kitchen. The aroma of boiling potage, think watered-down vegetable soup with a side of despair, fills your nostrils. The air crackles with tension, raw ingredients, and a surprising amount of flying kitchen debris. It's breakfast time, and the stakes are high, much like your cholesterol. Now let's delve into the drama unfolding around that grand, cauldron-like centerpiece, the hearth. Picture a structure that probably could have doubled as a sauna if only the tendency for things to catch fire weren't so prevalent. The cook, let's call him Chef Grimace for his signature scowl, stands imposing like a culinary overlord, his arms a flurry of regulation and random gestures. And as he emphasizes his point, he employs a move that could only be described as artful. Poised in a brief moment of concentrated rage, he flings not a mere piece of cheese, but a gleaming knife straight into a sturdy wooden block, where it lands with a resounding thunk. The sound reverberates throughout the room like an echo from the depths of doom, sending the scullions, aka the poor souls who vividly remember that summer they chose to work in catering, scattering like startled chickens at a fox convention. The tension in the air thickens, tangible enough to slice through, not with a knife, but with the sheer horror of potential culinary disasters awaiting each scullion. Terrified, they back away from the smoky cauldron, realizing that a misstep could mean more than just a slightly burnt onion. They might end up as the chef's latest experimental dish, escargot de scullion, perhaps, garnished with regret and doused in embarrassment. As the cauldron bubbles angrily, releasing plumes of steam reminiscent of an overly dramatic witch's brew, you can't help but wonder, what happened to the last apprentice who miscalculated their herb measurements? Spoiler alert, he now haunts the kitchen, insisting everyone season with extra salt, though no one is certain if it's for flavor or as a tribute to his final meal. Meanwhile, the kitchen team scurries around like caffeinated mice, each armed with wooden spoons and scars of culinary warfare. Imagine the psychological toll of being reprimanded in front of the entire estate for mixing up salt and sugar. That's a recipe for both disaster and extensive family therapy. "Oh, it was a dark day in the kitchen," they might reminisce. "We thought we were serving a feast, but instead, we created sweet and salty sog, the dish that almost cost us our jobs and our dignity." Now, those scullions aren't just there for the chef's amusement. They're carrying the weight of the manor on their backs, literally. If they're lucky, they might even get to enjoy leftovers, which is basically medieval gold. But let's be clear, leftovers in this era mean yesterday's mystery meat slathered in a sauce so strange it could fuel a conspiracy theory about what really lives in the manor's cellar. Oh, and did I mention the delightful disaster that is the dishwashing area? There, towering piles of dirty pots and pans beckon like menacing mountains of shame. Ever tried to scrub off the remnants of a 6-course feast using nothing but ancient rags and intermittent encouragement from Chef Grimace? Picture yourself in there, arms practically scrubbing off skin, all while he barks, "Are you attempting to clean?" or auditioning for a role as the latest vampire movie extra. So, as you drift off to sleep, let the symphony of kitchen chaos serenade you. Imagine those poor scullions, fearfully navigating the perils of boiling broth and hostile flames, faces smudged with the remnants of their culinary battles. They're the underappreciated heroes of this medieval opera, a medley of chaos and absurdity unfolding within the stone walls of the manor. Close your eyes, let the absurdity of their struggles wrap around you like a well-worn apron, and dream of yesteryears where survival involved not only skill, but a dash of luck, a pinch of bravery, and perhaps a smattering of theatrical knife-throwing. Because in the end, It's not just the nobles who keep the magic of the manor alive. It's those determined souls locked in the embrace of the most chaotic kitchen in history. And you can't help but love their relentless spirit, even if that love comes with a hint of kitchen smoke. Sleep well, dear dreamer, as we prepare to unveil more enchanting tales of medieval mischief and delightful absurdity.
Chapter 16. Stealthy Snacking in the Kitchen of Shadows. Hey guys, tonight we plunge into something stealthier than a cat burglar during a power outage. The secret life of a medieval servant girl circa 1300 AD. Ever pondered how a handful of raw peas could resemble rare jewels in the eyes of a laboring peasant? Or considered that the only thing more elusive than good bread might just be a moment of peace in a kitchen rife with chaos? If that has you intrigued, or mildly hungry, you're in for a treat. But remember, only like, subscribe, and comment if you find joy in this grand tale of absurdity. Now take a deep breath, dim those lights, and get cozy. Picture yourself in a time where a simple loaf of bread was dinner's main event, and every serving amounted to a small miracle of survival amidst the clamor and conflict. So, what must it be like to gulp down a cold porridge while dodging angry glances from the cook? Ever tried balancing a basket of eggs without cracking even one, only to realize that actually you're better off juggling flaming torches? Or have you ever tried to enjoy a snack while hiding from your boss, like an office worker sneaking cookies during a tedious Zoom call? Rediscover those moments, because it's time to wake up in a world of peasants, pots, and peril, where you're measured not by your culinary talent, but by your ability to survive a kitchen in full tempest. Congratulations! You've just woken up in the 1300s, right behind a wooden kitchen door, arms clutching a handful of raw peas. Not exactly what we'd call a feast, but hey, you've got to make do. You're nestled quietly in the shadows of the kitchen, a place resembling a chaotic battlefield of pans and bubbling porridge, where the air is filled with a delightful medley of smoke and something regrettably burnt. The cook, let's label him as Chef Stabbed in the Eye for being a master of threats and perhaps an unfortunate accident or two, rules the roost with an iron fist. Your heart races as you take a quick, silent bite of the peas, the crunchy little nuggets of green treasure somehow tasting sweeter amidst the kitchen mayhem. Is it really stealing if I'm basically foraging? You ponder, shoving more into your mouth like you're stashing away secret weapons in a snack war. The coarse bread and thin porridge swallow your hopes of culinary delight, like a sad sponge absorbed in disappointment. But these wee peas might just save your evening. With the kitchen as your backdrop, a disorganized realm of pots churning with bubbling potage and weapons like wooden spoons, imagine the tension coiling in the air, palpable, eager, and slightly steamy, with a hint of drama that could rival any medieval soap opera. You keep your head low, eyes darting toward the cook, whose eyebrows knit like a furious hedgehog. If looks could kill, the last loyal scullion would have turned to cinders by now. But hold on, it gets worse. The kitchen is also home to the infamous dishwasher of doom, a colossal mound of dirty pots that seem to laugh at you whenever you glance their way. Think of them as cursed relics, summoned from the depths of the manor's food tragedies. The ear-piercing clanks of clattering pans, intermixed with the curses of the unfortunate souls assigned to scrub them, rings in your ears like an unresolved playlist of unfortunate events. What's that? You thought you were going to enjoy your snack? Thinks the cook, who suddenly catches a glimpse of your makeshift garden of peas. Back to work, you lazy toad, he bellows, leaving you scrambling behind jars of preserved fruits like a ninja in a horror movie. You laugh silently, knowing full well that you're the top secret agent of this kitchen, dodging tables and ducking under smoke-filled air. Picture this chaotic mess. You, the unsung hero, breathing the fragrant aroma of half-burnt meals while frantically searching for opportunities to indulge without reaping the wrath of the chef. Your stealth snack may even be the culinary equivalent of hiding a donut in the office fridge. One moment of carefree bliss
before it's snatched away by the ever-watchful eyes of the peppery chef. Ah, the thrill of it all. Just like modern offices that offer you a sprinkle of joy in the form of coffee breaks, medieval kitchens provided little treasures among the gloom. Not all heroes wear capes. Some of us just wear aprons and look for half-eaten bread on hope's palate. As you consume your precious peas, you wonder if they're truly the gourmet meal of the century, or if you've simply fallen victim to years of disappointing dinners. Then again, nothing says haute cuisine quite like straining porridge through your fingers in the attempt to make it palatable. With the echoes of struggle and kitchen disaster fading into the distance, you edge toward the pot of unspeakable mysteries, ready to conquer whatever culinary punishment lies ahead. Yet, it really all boils down to one thing: snacking skills in a kitchen of chaos, bringing together elements of stealth, starchy intrigue, and the looming fear of being discovered. So, dear dreamer, as you drift off, embrace the absurdity of your medieval survival tactics. Relish in your momentary victory over the menacing jars of kitchen staples, and do so with a heart full of hidden peas and laughter echoing in your ears. The medieval world thrives on unseen fragility and culinary mischief, and amidst it all, the life of our stealthy servant girl will never be forgotten. Now, let the sweet embrace of sleep wrap around you like a comforter doused in flower and mystery. Good night, noble dreamer. Night.
Chapter 17. The Plateful of Persistence. Ah, the dining table, or as it might be more accurately referred to in this case, the wooden altar of survival, piled precariously high with the servants' sparse offerings. You squint at the scene set before you, where a veritable mountain of austere but seasonal food looms. Coarse grains, dried fish, salted pork, and an array of foraged spring greens, nettles, and leeks sit together like a band of misfits chorus singing, "Welcome to the buffet of endurance." Let's talk about feelings, specifically the relentless feeling of every bite being a blend of anticipation and resignation. Imagine staring at the feast laid out on this rustic wooden table, a culinary version of Pick Your Poison. But there they sit, row upon row of humble victuals that whisper sweet nothings to your stomach, though your taste buds are still unsure whether to celebrate or mourn. As you dig in, your mouth is met with textures reminiscent of a muddy old boot, making you question how a burgeoning mound of leeks could simultaneously taste like a spring garden and a gym sock. Now picture this. You take a forkful of that coarse grain and chew, chew, chew. It feels less like daily sustenance and more like a medieval workout routine. Ever been so desperate for nutrition that contemplating the merits of a slightly questionable hunk of salted pork made you feel like a contestant on a survival show? Welcome back to What'll Kill You First, Mystery Meat Edition, you think, contemplating that the culinary risks taken in 1300 AD make modern food truck offerings look tame. And don't get me started on the greens. Those sad, wilted nettles stare back at you as if they too are contemplating their life choices. Ever wonder how you end up eating something that sounds like a 19th century vocabulary test? Tonight on the menu, nettles. What are they, you ask? Grass that forgot who it was. You take a hesitant nibble, and your mouth responds as if you just attempted to tame a velociraptor. The rubbing of elbows at dinner was akin to combat training. You and your fellow servants jockey for every morsel. Lean to the left. No, to the right. The only people more dedicated to their gastronomical endeavors could be the grumpy cook, or the noble family trying to pretend the heaps of rice weren't plotting a coup against their waistlines. You instinctively feel like a contestant in an absurd game show. Next up, softened existence facing potential disasters. You laugh softly to yourself so as not to disturb the simmering tension that accompanies each meal. But let's drown in the sweet nostalgia of the experience. Back in your comfortable modern life, you could whip out your smartphone for a takeaway app, the way a medieval peasant takes on an empty stomach, with grim determination. Your life is filled with items labeled locally sourced, while the banquet at the wooden table is just, we hope it's not actually, rancid. Every meal is its own rain cloud at this table, consuming its beautiful storm of textures that taste like an existential crisis had collided with a head of cabbage. Every bite feels like a victory and defeat rolled into one. You question your life choices. Did you really need to be a peasant in a kitchen rife with chaos? Yet every meal is punctuated by the underlying joke of your fate. It's like watching a sitcom where the characters keep tripping over the same rug but think it's hilarious every single time. Ah, the charm of mediocrity served with a side of raccoon feet, you muse, nibbling on a slightly less than fresh piece of fish, the ocean's last-ditch effort to stay relevant. Laughter fills the air, not because of your meal's jovial nature, but because it has become a comedic ritual for you and your fellow laborers. You take a moment to glance around the table, where everyone is engaged in the ongoing battle of survival. Some friends are negotiating for the last limp leak, give or take a few hair-raising stares that ring more tragic than comical. This kitchen is a sanctuary and a circus. As you finish your plate, the lingering taste of triumph mixes with a sly sense of impending doom. Was that leeching off flavor too simplistic of a metaphor for your reality? Perhaps. But it's nothing if not real and relatable, echoing with the very essence of medieval life, where every grain of joy and every trace of dread coexist like a delicate dance on a tightrope of uncertainty. And so, dear dreamer, as you settle deeper into your blankets with stomachs full of humor and hearty resilience in the face of salt-choked ambition, realize this: those humble meals bespeak a legacy, a testament to the endurance you never bargained for, serving a plateful of persistence garnished with a dash of absurdity. Cooking, once an art, has turned into a riddle as complex as the knot in a peasant's gut when confronted with an empty pot. Ah, but dear listeners, take your peace in knowing that even amidst the culinary mishaps of 1300 AD, laughter, above all, was the force that simmered beneath the surface and allowed them to relish the absurd when dining felt like a performance on the edge of chaos. Good night, indeed. Chapter 18. The Coiffure Conundrum. Ah, Joan, the diligent lady's maid, standing maestro-like before a gallery of hairdos that are the real MVPs of the medieval era. Imagine this: you wake up, your head tangled like a wild field after a storm, and the day demands you transform into a portrait of Gothic elegance. Joan, your tireless companion, is armed with a polished boxwood comb that looks suspiciously like it could double as a medieval weapon. Who knew grooming could be so perilous? She stands poised with a concentrated gaze, her tongue peeking out ever so slightly as she holds a bone-headed pin between her teeth, clearly prioritizing function over dental aesthetics. Picture yourself entrusting your entire morning to a woman who doesn't just have hair-pinning skills, but would probably excel in the art of household sabotage. Let's see how you navigate court today with hair stuck to an improper bun. Joan might cackle under her breath should you ever misbehave. This isn't just about hair, it's an art form. Joan's fingers dance through your tresses like a bard strumming a lute, a delicate symphony of fine motor skills and sheer will. Because, let's face it, the last thing a lady needs is her hair losing a battle mid-sentence at a lavish banquet. Is there anything more panic-inducing than realizing your hairstyle has launched an all-out revolt? It's like trying to keep together a group of unruly children at a feast while being told to maintain your poise like a capable switchboard operator. Flawless and serene, yet one misstep from utter chaos. While Joan deftly plunges the pin into the updo, you might just wonder, why are we pinning hair to our heads using what appears to be the remnants from that last village feast? Was there a memo you missed about fashion tips for the medieval lady? Because it's starting to feel like a lost episode of reality TV entitled Medieval Makeover Mayhem. And the veil. Ah yes, the veil. A flowy piece of fabric shrouded in mystery that leaves one pondering. Is it supposed to enhance your aura of elegance? Or is it just an ancient way of saying, please ignore the fact that I just survived a bundle of agricultural misadventures?
Who decided that wearing a soft billow of fabric could turn anyone into a symbol of sophistication, entwined with the occasional intrigue? Did they have any idea the effort it took to actually create that look? It was less effortlessly chic and more, how much hair wrestling will this take? With the veil now securely in place, you can almost hear the collective sigh of relief from onlookers who feared for your fashion life. Everyone knows a well-pinned coif can save or ruin a day in a matter of moments. Imagine the whispers that gushed through the court. "Look at Lady So-and-so. What a hairstyle. Is that a new saga or just last week's leftovers?" This is why social dynamics in the realm of fashion felt draggingly serious. Call it the hair game, where the stakes were as high as the ceilings in the Lord's Hall, and everyone was waiting for someone to drop the ball, or pin. Then there's the unmistakable scent of pomade, a concoction that could be described as equal parts sitting in a drunken haze of what could be called flower power, if flowers were more about overwhelming scents and sticky textures instead of fresh bouquets. Ever considered being smacked by someone's essence of herbal garden whilst simply trying to sip your mead? It's like being friends with an insistent peacock. "Look at me, I'm glorious. Smell my greatness." Let's not forget Joan's surprisingly high stakes for hair accessories. In this unpredictable era, each pin seems imbued with symbolic significance. Could that bone pin hold the ancestral memory of past maidens who donned it? Perhaps there's a conspiracy afoot. Is it possible that these hairpins could grant the wearer the powers of ancient maidens? Beware the maiden with the bone pin. Legend has it she can tame rogue strands and surprise boar on a whim. It's medieval hair sorcery at its finest, folks. As the final touches are made, you take a moment to assess your reflection. Ah yes, there you are. A transformed human, masquerading as an elegant lady instead of a woman who just had an existential crisis about the contents of last night's sieve stew. You're ready to conquer the unpredictable world of courtly gossip. Watch out, lords, for an awe-inspiring headpiece and the fiercest "I've got this" energy you silently communicate to your reflection. In the grand tapestry of the medieval world, where each do could lead to uncharted social territory, we must give a round of applause to Joan, the unsung hero of coiffure conquest. If only she knew that somewhere in a future far beyond her grasp, people would reminisce about the trials of hair maintenance and laugh over their complexity, feeling forever grateful for combs not doubling as weapons, spare hairpins not carrying the weight of their ancestors, and veils that didn't flap about like forgotten flags in a snowstorm. So rest easy tonight, for while you dream of balmy summer's eve, multiple hairstyles, and perfect hairpins in a world undisturbed by splendor, remember Joan, diligently pinning her way through a time where every hair choice could sway your fortunes in ways that would leave you tangled in delightful dilemmas, laughing all the way to court, indeed. Chapter 19. The Gossipy Gala of the Gentry. Ah, behold the quaint bustle of a medieval manor, where the noble and the schnobbly gather to either exchange pleasantries or plot the next scandalous swoop of intrigue. You, dear listener, find yourself in the midst of this social whirlwind, your ears ready to feast on gossip like a ravenous courtier at a banquet. Only this feast is all the more delicious because it has no calories or consequences, except perhaps some raised eyebrows. Imagine the sights. Tapestries embroidered with painstaking detail, depicting scenes of valor, while the sound of tinkling laughter and clinking goblets fill the air. And somewhere in this dazzling social mosaic is Joan, your ever-observant lady's maid, perched with a watchful gaze like a hawk poised above a murky field of feathered conspirators. Now, picture this. Your noble mistress Jane lounging upon her velvet-upholstered chair, draped in fabric so fine it could cause a peasant's heart to stop from sheer envy. She lounges with all the grace of a cat stuck in a permanent sunbeam. "Joan, who is that stranger in the hall?" she theatrically gasps, her hand flying to her chiffon collar as if to fan away the very notion of someone being new and not properly vetted by the court of public opinion. Joan, to her credit, has mastered the art of listening like a finely tuned instrument, each glance flickering like the flame in the hearth. She is the maestro of facial expressions, carefully nodding like a wind-up doll as the gossip flows like cheap wine after a successful looting. You can almost hear her inner monologue. Ah, Lady Whimsical has entered the scene. Guess it's time to summon her finest frowny face, she thinks, composing her features into an expression of perfectly exaggerated intrigue. Did you ever wonder why people take gossip so seriously? It's like modern social media, but instead of scrolling through TikTok, they are browsing through the shabby affairs of fellow nobles. Did you hear about Lord Buzzword? They say he's entertaining a barmaid under his very own roof, Jane breathes, her voice dramatic, voluminous, and possibly a tad too loud for the nearby serfs. You almost expect a bard to burst forth with a lute to strum the tragic ballad of Lord Buzzword's misdeeds, complete with dramatic flourishes. Speaking of dresses, did you see Lady Cecilia's latest ensemble? Jane continues in a conspiratorial whisper, pulling Joan closer as if the walls themselves might gain ears at this most salacious revelation. I've heard she's twisted her hair into a crown of straw just to elevate her status. The sham. Joan barely suppresses a chuckle, thinking, a crown? I'm tempted to offer her my hoop skirt and just call it a day. After all, scenes like this could only evoke absurd comparisons to today's red carpet events. What would a medieval version of the Met Gala even look like? Trousers sewn from yonder field, and the sheen of a freshly baked pie paraded as haute couture. Quite the pickle, if you ask me. Every nod and sigh from Joan is fluidly calculated, each emotional cue as subtle as a cat seeking belly rubs. But don't be fooled. She knows the game. While the court is focused on snazzy fabrics and clandestine affairs, Joan's true loyalties lie with the stories that spiral like spirals of pastry off a fine baker's rolling pin. You know, the real juicy bits. How many turnips Lady Whimsical misplaced just last week, or what she planned to serve at tomorrow's terribly extravagant breakfast. Ah, breakfast. It's often the harbinger of chaos in the noble household. Hammocks of conversation swinging wildly as servants tiptoe around, balancing platters filled with options that are equally tantalizing and potentially horrifying. Do you prefer goose or guinea fowl? A hesitant servant might inquire, which leads to discussions more twisted than Lady Witherspoon's attempt at unpacking the latest send-off gossip about her pet squirrel. As the gathering of gentry reaches a fevered pitch, Joan leans closer to Lady Jane, who is now expertly fanning herself with an embroidered napkin. Oh, do tell, Joan! You simply must know if Lady Beatrix's new frock is sourced from fairest lands, or if she's still wearing last season's trash. Joan holds still, monitoring the emotional temperature of the room like a medieval weather vane. It's an art, one that goes unnoticed and underappreciated, yet crucial for keeping the winds of social status from turning too dramatically. Acre or Viking ship salesmen would envy her talents in navigating these choppy, rumor-filled waters. Miss Jane leans back dramatically, raising her cup of mead as if to toast Lady Beatrix's fashion sins. You hear Joan exhale just slightly, weighing her options. It's all a grand masquerade, dear mistress. One where the only thing wearing a respectable garment is the narrative itself. The walls tremble, or perhaps it's just the Lord's minstrels trying not to devour the feast before performing. Joan cannot help but find humor in the absurdities that coat daily life for the nobles. Every whispered secret, every dramatic sigh, a woven tapestry of fantastical tales that make her wonder, is this truly life? Or just the longest episode of a reality series that features unhygienic hairpins and less than proper etiquette? And as the day wanes, with shadows creeping alongside, Joan knows that echoing voices will persist, bending low under the weight of the tales that will flourish in the halls until the morning sun meddles in their artful design. So, she takes a moment to appreciate how, much like today's endless scroll of realities on the very own platform of earthly amusements, their world, too, is a pathway of endless chuckles, snares, and finely polished, unfathomable chaos, ready to be transformed into the next day's gossip, much like yesterday's leftover.
Hi. It never quite stays put for long. And as you feel yourself slipping softly into the tranquility of sleep, remember that among the swirling gowns and crumpled sentiments, life, like Jane's love for candied beets, can be delightfully absurd, one pin at a time. Chapter 20. The Spinning Wheel of Misfortune. Welcome to the steamy sanctum of medieval kitchens, where the air is thick with the aroma of something that is definitely not the Michelin-starred dish you dreamt of last night. As you peer closer, your attention is drawn to a boy. It could be you, really. His small hands blistered and sooty as he dutifully turns the greasy meat spit, ensuring that dinner not only sets teeth grinding, but also potentially garners some wrath from the kitchen staff. You contemplate for a moment. How did it come to this? Are you scraping away at greasy meat like an overworked barista buzzing around a coffee shop with 100 mobile orders? You question your life choices, pining for a day when you'd simply scroll through your phone instead of sweating bullets while trying to avoid the anger of a kitchener. Seriously, do they have to yell so loudly? It's as if every spatula or wooden spoon has been granted permission to double as a megaphone. Now, it's a roast, not a dramatic monologue that governs your day. You can hear the sizzling meat hissing angrily like a cat that's just had its tail stepped on. And while you struggle to ensure an evenly cooked piece of protein, your mind wanders to the modern world where half-burned dinners are just a post on Instagram away from becoming a gourmet success. Look at this charred delicacy, you might say, far from the truth, but gloriously willing to mislead your followers for a smattering of likes. In the kitchen, the heat clings to your skin like an unwelcome hug. You feel like a roast yourself, slowly cooking under the scrutinizing eyes of the masters of culinary critique. Yes, you guessed it, those are actually just the other kitchen staff, lurking around, eager to adjudicate your performance like it's some sort of twisted talent show. Their lives in the medieval kitchen could be a reality series. Top cook and the other ones who might just get thrown to the wolves. As you turn the spit, your incessant thoughts swirl like the clattering pots stacked precariously above you. Have you ever thought about how hard they worked back in the good old days? You chuckle, perhaps a bit hysterically, as your mind suggests a medieval equivalent of a wellness retreat. Picture it. Come one, come all, to the Marjoram and Misery Spa. Enjoy our special mud bath, enriched with the finest sediment and scent of barnyard. Sure sounds more relaxing than your current situation. Your blistered palm protests, each turn of the spit feeling heavier than a 10-pound winter ale. You almost contemplate launching into a soliloquy about the unfairness of life. To roast or not to roast? That is truly the question. Yet, any thoughts of rebellion dissipate quickly as the fear of the kitchener's wrath mingles with the anticipation of perfectly roasted meat. If only there was a medieval motivational speaker advocating for Meat Spinning 101. You too can achieve culinary greatness. Just picture the roast as a beautiful sunset instead of a meal guaranteed to bring the ire of the stew pot over your head. Less squinting at the flames and more imagining yourself as a gastronomic wizard conjuring savory delights. But alas, fantasy does not line your kitchen, and reality, a steaming pile of grease, lies firmly in place. The kitchen swells with the noise of clattering dishes and the shouts of your fellow underlings. You feel more like a poorly assembled puppet than a human being. Ever wondered why medieval kitchens lacked modern distractions? Don't you just wish you had a podcast or a playlist of medieval bangers to keep you entertained while twisting that spit? Turn that meat, your only job today.
As the moment wears on, the dripping grease offers an unwelcome balance to your sensory experience, inviting olfactory sarcasm as you imagine what it'd be like to share your culinary struggles in today's society. Yeah, I just couldn't get the roast right. Totally turned it into smoked jerky. Do I win an award for most creative? Finally, the delectable scent of roasted meat tempts you onward, pushing your imagination toward gluttonous heights. You breathe in deeply, savoring the tantalizing prospect of finally getting to serve it. Yet, you aren't done yet. Later, when they inevitably forgot your name while rewarding praise upon the slightly more suave kitchen assistant, you would find solace in the silent laughter of how wildly unqualified everyone feels, even if it hasn't a hint of 1,000 tweets following after it. As the kitchen becomes a stage for your daily drama, you heave a sigh, or is it a groan? Wondering if anyone would recognize the unsung hero behind the roast, the one person toiling silently, much like an underappreciated artist crafting fate with a turn of the spit instead of a stroke of the brush. You shake your head, rousing yourself from these musing depths, and you realize truthfully that no matter how caked and soggy your hands might feel, there's comedic solace in being a medieval kitchen laborer. Life is one massive turkey bake-off, and somehow, you've made it to the roasting round, even if you have a million things to fix about your roast. And perhaps, in the grandiosity of these precarious moments, nestled under layers of soot and strife, lies the realization: you can't make this up, and you certainly can't escape it, especially when your thumb keeps spontaneously igniting your desire for a featured guest appearance on Medieval MasterChef.
Chapter 21. A Kitchener's Worth. Hey guys, welcome back to another journey through the baffling, often bizarre realms of history. Tonight, we dive into a world where the air smells less like freshly baked sourdough and more like, well, let's just say the noble art of fragrance in the 1300s was a tad lacking. Our star tonight isn't a noble nor a knight in shining armor, but a serious man with a tally stick. Yes, you heard that right, a man with a stick that counts. It's like a medieval accountant, but instead of coffee breaks, he keeps an eye on barrels of barley and dwindling bean supplies. Hold on to your pillows, folks. You're in for a rollicking sleep tale about the invisible labor that made medieval life just a bit less chaotic, or more chaotic, depending on how you look at it. But before we set off on this adventure, remember to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy true absurdities. And maybe hit that subscribe button too, but only if you find joy in tales of oily kitchens and tally sticks of yore. Now, let's dim those lights, put on a fan, because, trust me, cooking medieval food is nothing but a sweat fest, and slide comfortably into our time machine. As we nestle into the past, let's ponder some questions. Ever found yourself weighing the merits of a slightly stale loaf of bread against the risk of a kitchen based on medieval hygiene? Curious how many beans are actually too many beans? What about a chef who memorizes their stock like it's the winning lottery numbers, but forgets that spices existed? So many burning queries. Without further ado, congratulations! You've just woken up in the year 1300, a Sunday in a small medieval hamlet. This isn't your peaceful suburban neighborhood, my friend. You've landed smack dab in a bustling kitchen prepared for another day of medieval splendor. Or something resembling it. Let's talk about the Kitchener. Picture him standing amid a forest of barrels, his face a portrait of serious intent that could rival a Byzantine emperor. His tallies are precise, yet his heart rate is spiking as if it were on a caffeine high. You want a hearty stew for supper, eh? Let's see how we can stretch 3 spoons of barley into a feast fit for, well, a very hungry beggar. The air thickens with the scent of dried beans, aged barley, and the unmistakable hint of impending doom. Because, my friend, as the Kitchener knows, it's a delicate balance between sustenance and what on earth do we do if that's all we have left until harvest? His tally stick serves as both a feeble weapon and a constant reminder of scarcity.
Imagine wielding a stick every day that screams, "Doom is nigh," at you while trying to figure out how many meals can be spun from a handful of joyless legumes. His brow is furrowed as he raises an eyebrow. Is that a moth in the barley? Or the last of the blackout curtains closing in on the hope of a feast? Can you feel the anxiety? It's akin to realizing you've forgotten to order pizza for a party while your guests are knocking at the door. Except here, instead of a pizza box, it's a barrel of very dusty assumptions. As you watch him shuffle around, you might wonder, what was it like to live as the dungeon keeper of food? The answer? Pretty bleak, my friend. Just picture overseeing a collection of barrels like they were trophies of some extroverted food competition that never quite caught on. He has to monitor supplies with the meticulousness of a surly baker counting out perfect croissants, only to realize he's out of flour as the townsfolk eye him like he's holding the last baguette on earth. The sound of creaking barrels fills the air, each squeak like a phantom telling you, "Eat more meat, please." You clutch your own modern tummy and think, ever try to make do with this many beans? Imagine hosting a dinner that's promised to be an unending feast, where each guest eagerly anticipates a plate full of perfectly roasted leg of lamb. But all you can muster between those excited gasps is a sad bowl of overcooked, mushy beans seasoned with fear. Or perhaps a third helping of disappointment. As you watch the Kitchener, his furrowed brow deepens further. It's a face that could easily appear in a modern-day meme captioned, "When you realize there's no takeout for dinner." He jots numbers on his tally stick, the ink smudged with the residue of long-forgotten stews. There's a rhythm to his life, a dance between the waning supplies and the urgent need to impress. Let's turn 2 barrels into a feast fit for a king. Or at least convince them the spicy air from the neighbors is worth stealing. And we can nearly hear his inner thoughts echo. Do we have enough salt? How many times can I serve beans before someone loses their marbles? Is the cat actually available for us to roast? Or should we just stick with our sad vegetable rations? Just as you settle into the rhythm of his daily woes, a soft rumble shakes the earth. Perhaps the sound of your imaginary modern world, wondering how on earth humans survived with a Kitchener's fate tied to a stick and beans. The resemblance to a precariously organized pantry in your own kitchen becomes laughable, because who among us hasn't turned to our fridge, peeking inside and concluding that last week's takeout is starting to look positively gourmet compared to a tub of forgotten condiments? With a chuckle drifting through this medieval kitchen bustle, you find solace in the fact that while modern life has its easy outs, the medieval version was an entirely different roast. Should you ever feel overwhelmed by the simple act of meal prep, just remember, the man with the tally stick once dubbed beans the noble staple of the age, making it quite clear that life in the medieval kitchen is vast, absurd, and wildly, delightfully relatable. As the Kitchener continues his grim tally,
True hero in the culinary world with a penchant for dust and strain, you realize that behind every knee-deep in beans moment lies a beautiful irony. Life may not be glamorous, but at least it's never boring. And as you drift deeper into slumber, consider yourself wrapped in the levity of history's most earnest kitchen laborer, spinning tales of barley and beans into the silent, dream-filled world ahead. Well, there you have it. Our deep dive into the uncelebrated life of a medieval Kitchener filled with the absurd, the relatable, and of course, a hearty serving of laughter, served hot. If you enjoyed this journey, please consider giving us a thumbs up, and maybe even drop a comment sharing your favorite moment. Good night, my friends. May your dreams be filled with delicious feasts, laughter, and perhaps a Renaissance festival lovingly reminding you that sometimes a tallied stick is all that stands between you and an endless sea of beans. Sweet dreams. Chapter 22. The Midnight Scramble. Welcome back, dear listeners. As we continue our journey into the medieval culinary underbelly,
let's turn our focus to the flickering, perhaps slightly singed, candlelit atmosphere of a noble kitchen. Picture this scene. A small army of weary servants, faces smudged with yesterday's stew, gathered around a vast copper pan, scraping the last meager remnants of last night's supper. They're not just fighting hunger, they're embroiled in a late-night wrestling match with crusted-on vegetables that seem to have taken on a life of their own. The magical essence of this moment? The distinct aroma of slight desperation mixed with a hint of stale bread. It's the very bouquet of the Middle Ages, my friends. You see, the nobles may have dined like kings, but their leftovers? That's where the real treasure, or tragic comedy, lies. Ever watched an old dog try to catch its own tail? Imagine that, but with a kitchen maid trying to steal a crust of bread from a pie edge without getting caught by the cook. A scene worthy of its own medieval cartoon. As our story unfolds, we find ourselves hungering for humor amidst the kitchen chaos. There's the determined girl, perhaps Margaret or Beryl, who spotted a small corner of crust peeking out from beneath the guise of a buttery pastry. Her eyes narrow. She sizes it up like a hawk about to swoop in. Will this be her moment? Or will the all-seeing eye of the cook catch her red-handed? It's a snack heist in the making, folks. Imagine her calculating the risk. Will my fellow servants notice if I risk it all for a nibble of such forbidden decadence? That's right. She's taking her shot like a modern-day quiz show contestant contemplating the answer while a ticking clock sends sweat beads down her brow. Her heart races, not just from potential starvation, but from the thrill of the taboo. The air crackles with tension, both savory and sweet. With a flick of her wrist, Margaret reaches out, every second feeling like eternity. The cook, a burly fellow known for his fiery temper and suspiciously large ladle, prowls the kitchen, scanning for anyone contemplating a rebellious act against the pantry. The very ladle that once stirred the finest stew now looms like a guillotine, mighty and unforgiving. "Is that a crumb on your tunic, Margaret?" he bellows suddenly, turning sharply, his eyes narrowing like those of a hawk spotting prey mid-flight. Hello, panic mode. Just like trying to dodge an ex at a reunion, sudden, awkward, and a little too loud. Margaret freezes, caught in the act like a deer in the headlights, unusually aware of just how crummy she looks. Perhaps it's the uneven hair or that one eye that always squints a little too much. It's all very unguarded, yet under all that chaotically misplaced dough lies the spirit of rebellion. Imagine a commercial airing during the Super Bowl that urges you to seize the moment, except instead of freedom, it's just a piece of pie crust. As laughter dances through the kitchen from her fellow servants, you can't help but chuckle as you realize this isn't just about scraps of bread. No, it's a miniature revolution, the kind where young servants learn the fine art of culinary poaching. There's barely enough in the pot, but Margaret has her sights set higher. The kitchen is alive with muffled whispers and giggles, painting a charming picture of camaraderie amidst mundane chaos and undercooked mutton. You can practically hear those giggles. When you realize you've just entered a game show where the prize is a stale crust of bread. Or, welcome to Who Wants to Beat the Cook? Spoiler, everybody does. Even as Margaret contemplates her next move, her gang of accomplices unable to contain their amusement, waves of history seem to wash over you. These moments, while steeped in the aroma of desperation, are filled with the same warmth of human connection that seasons our own mundane lives. If you think your lunch break at work is chaotic, what, with the constant interruptions of filing, coffee fetching, and sporadic small talk, you haven't seen anything yet. Imagine these servants racing against the clock, responsibly, but also hilariously, to score their meals on ludicrous wagers. Just as Margaret finally snatches her prize, a triumphant grin spreading across her face, the cook starts his rounds again. The atmosphere shifts. It's a living, breathing tangle of adrenaline and missed opportunities, predicaments and pie crusts, all reminding you of the constant game of luck we play for fulfillment, whether it's at the table or the office break room. After a brief tussle over who eats the last crust, spoiler, it's Margaret, now fully committed, the kitchen hums with an entirely different energy. It becomes a stage for a most theatrical rivalry, the kind that has pitted generations of servants against one another in a battle for crumbs and dignity. As she takes a triumphant bite, bliss stretches across her face, like she's just bitten into the world's best chocolate, despite it being half a day old and splattered with yesterday's stew remnants. And as you drift further into sleepy oblivion, consider this. Behind every grand feast laid before nobles rests a tiny army fueled by the arcane art of bread thievery and whimsical conspiracy. Because, my friends, in the end, history is not just about what was left on plates, but who found the joy in the scraps. And that's a heist worth stealing. And there we go, dear dreamers. From Margaret's daring crust-capturing escapade to the boisterous kitchen antics that filled their nights with laughter, even midst meager rations, there lies a tapestry of human spirit and absurdity. If you enjoyed the ride, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, share your own laughable kitchen stories, and maybe toss a comment in the cauldron below. Sleep well, dear
Listeners, knowing that the hearts of the past remain intertwined with our most relatable follies. May your dreams be sprinkled with humorous escapades and the sweetness of crusty pastries. Good night. Chapter 23. Beneath the Elder Tree. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner of the History Buffet, where the appetizers are quirky tales from medieval life and the main course is served hot with a side of absurdity. Tonight, we find ourselves at a serene burial scene beneath a massive elder tree, the kind so old it could probably tell you all the gossip from the last 500 years if only it had a functioning mouth, and a little more sass. As we drift into this story, prepare yourself to discover the hidden heroes of the late Middle Ages, the invisible laborers crafting lives you wouldn't trade your smartphone for, unless, of course, it doesn't come with Wi-Fi. But before we dig deeper, if you find yourself chuckling, or even snoring, please hit that thumbs up, subscribe, and comment if you enjoy the fun, though only if your conscience allows, of course. Dim the lights, turn on that fan, and get comfortable. Yes, snuggle into those covers like a kid hiding from the cold, or maybe from that awkward family gathering you hope to avoid. And while you settle in, ever wondered what it was like for those poor peasants who were just living their best lives after a long day's work? How did they grapple with the notion of choosing between a hearty turnip and a squirrel for dinner? Or tell the time without a smartphone to remind them of the hour? Or the existential dread of their choices? Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1300 AD, a time when washing your hands meant splashing them in a creek and then quickly racing back to your chores before the feudal lord noticed you weren't sowing seeds. Spoiler alert, the seeds are as confused about their identity as you are about your next life decision. As we swivel back into our scene, the tranquility beneath the elder tree tells tales of loss, labor, and laughter, all cloaked in a shroud of rich earth and freshly turned soil. Picture it, a pair of familiar, rough hands lowering a body into the earth, their calloused palms cradling sheets that are more threadbare than a monk's tablecloth at a feast. You can practically smell the earthy perfume of humility mixing with a hint of wildflowers, while soft whispers dance around the gravestone like a bunch of nervous pigeons at a party. This melancholic but humorous ceremony can't help but draw your attention, because who wouldn't chuckle at the sight of a crooked wooden cross, the handiwork of a once ambitious carpenter who probably thought, "Nailed it," more or less. It seems that precision wasn't in his job description, or perhaps his tools were just as rebellious as the nails that bent under the weight of history. Ever tried to assemble IKEA furniture without the instruction manual? Imagine that, but with old timber and a grave marker.
We're talking about a truly medieval DIY project gone awry. And here's the kicker: each mourning soul lowering a loved one, possibly while trying to dodge the occasional fallen acorn, shares heartfelt stories filled with humor and light. You might hear the tale of Agnes, the infamous town gossip, who always claimed to have the best butter churn, or old Roger, who still believed his goat could sing on Tuesdays, once even prompting a small audience of skeptics who just wanted the afternoon entertainment. As this scene unfolds, it conjures an image of community embodied in the laughter that emerges around these dark yet vibrant moments. How many times have you found yourself at a somber gathering, nervously cracking jokes about how Uncle Bob accidentally wore mismatched shoes to his own wedding? Yes, everyone has their unique way of coping with loss, even when it means inadvertently resurrecting some truly ludicrous memories. If you think social media influencers have cornered the market on storytelling, think again. Tales were woven beneath the elder tree, where villagers gathered to connect, squinting at the sun while relaying epic adventures of wild turnip hunts, tales of mischief involving gnomes, or exaggerated accounts of how they heroically rescued, or simply lost, their livestock on the wrong side of the forest. And the laughter sewn into the fabric of their stories began to momentarily soften the edge of grief. Imagine a friend shaking their head, chuckling, and there I was, chasing that pig like it owed me money. That's the essence of life. Messy, funny, and sometimes just a tad absurd. As we slowly drift off into this embrace of humility and humanity, remember, behind every grave lies not just loss, but laughter. A mingling of memories that span generations, where love and resilience shine brighter than the finest medieval chandelier. It's a gentle yet bittersweet reminder that in the grand pursuit of noble life, every ounce of invisible labor is wrapped in the warm fuzzies of human connection and, let's be honest, a healthy dose of awkwardness. So, let's raise a toast, not with spilled ale over the table, but rather in quiet reflection for those workers of old, their crooked crosses, and the outrageous tales still floating around like autumn leaves in a gentle breeze. Each piece of laughter shared, transported through time, reminding us to embrace the downright ridiculous, because sometimes that's exactly what life calls for. Not perfectly straight wooden crosses, but hilariously crooked ones, reflecting the beautifully untamed essence of humanity. And there it is, dear dreamers. From the poignant whispers beneath that grand elder tree to the offbeat escapades of those who claimed the title of nobility with sheer resilience and humor, we see how intricately life wove itself back then. May your dreams tonight be adorned with laughter, love, and the realization that even the most somber of moments are often punctuated by absurdity. If you enjoyed this little medieval excursion, do remember to like, subscribe, and perhaps share a laugh about your own uniquely hilarious life moments in the comments below. Sleep soundly, knowing history wraps around us like a warm, slightly tattered quilt, full of charming stories that linger on, even if they include a rogue goat or two. Good night. Chapter 24, The Legacy of Rough Hands. Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner where history doesn't just sit quietly on dusty shelves. It tells tales more entertaining than a village bard with a penchant for puns. Tonight we're diving into the quiet, essential lives of the unsung heroes who built the noble medieval life through their invisible labor. Think of it as a time for gratitude, not for your latte, but for the folks who spent their days swatting flies and mending fences instead. Imagine for a moment a world where emails don't exist, yet so many notes were exchanged through well-timed eyebrow raises and the universal "who put cabbage in my stew" look. Sure, we might wither away at the thought of being deprived of Instagram, but we have to hand it to them. Our medieval ancestors had no filter, except perhaps the one made of sheep wool that offered dubious protection from the elements. Ah, the good old days when social media consisted of murmurs and gossip at the market. Before we get cozy in our time-traveling blanket of absurdity, hit that thumbs up if you enjoy this little romp through history, and maybe consider subscribing. But only if you actually find joy in this quest. No pressure. Now, dim those lights, turn on that fan, maximize the comfort so you can feel like a noble, even if it's just while nestled beneath your pile of various laundry. It's time to dive into what life was like back in 1300 AD. Picture this. You wake up in an era when washing your hands meant swirling them around in the creek, hoping that maybe, just maybe, a fish is feeling generous enough to give you a manicure while you splash about. Ever tried asking a fish for a good scrub? Trust me, it's a slippery situation. Have you ever pondered how to negotiate dinner plans when your options are either a rather stubborn turnip or an unfortunate-looking squirrel? And how about dreaming up ways to tell time without a smartphone guide? Well, the sun is about halfway to that tree, I think. Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1300 AD, where local livestock might be the closest you get to a decent Wi-Fi connection. As you shake off the grogginess, look around. You find yourself on a quaint little farm, staring at an old man with hands rougher than a sandpaper hug. They're resting on a rustic wooden fence, a fence he helped mend an eternity ago, or, quite possibly, while the kings were still figuring out how to count past 10. Now, let's admire those hands, shall we? These marvelous appendages weren't just built for picturesque countryside posing. They carried the weight of an entire community's labor. Imagine spending hours weaving thatch, attempting to patch up a roof when it rains harder than a nobleman's tantrum over spilled wine. The smell of fresh earth and a hint of rotting cabbage wafts through the air as he reflects on his legacy. Not the bustling market, not the noble court, but the subtle acts of prayer, honest labor, and a patching up job that might make even the hardwood floor cringe in envy. You can almost hear the old man's thoughts echoing, like an ancient bard with a little too much time on his hands, jesting about the irony of his life. I didn't get rich fixing fences. But did you see the craftsmanship? Every nail I hammered was practically a work of art. You'd think I was hunting treasures, not mending my neighbor's fences on a Tuesday afternoon. Every bent nail has its story. A marriage proposal gone wrong, a pig that occasionally took a liking to the fence, and countless auctions of invisible labor that earned him the respect of the villagers. In modern terms, it's like posting your day's work on Instagram, but instead of likes, you get cold soup and grumbling about the quality of your fence work. Picture the droll conversation, the paradox of being both praised and half-heartedly berated for his back-breaking toil. Oh, wonderful, thanks, George. This fence is as if a tornado did the final touches. Well, the truth is that no one really celebrated or cared for the quiet toil of the underrepresented laborers more than when they gathered for a feast, if you could call it that. Think of it. Imagine a banquet where folks gathered not merely for the food, the same boring turnip stew that would haunt them until next Tuesday, but for the stories that danced through the air. Tales spun of the man who defeated the loaf of stale bread in an epic "who can chew it first" contest. Or the infamous day Roger, the village butcher, attempted to teach his goat to fetch. Spoiler alert, it didn't go as planned, and let's say rotating meat became an unexpected affair. Even as the old man reminisces, a familial warmth lingers in the air, cemented not just by physical labor, but by the invisible threads of community forged through laughter, resilience, and endless mischief. Can you imagine these peasant gatherings full of exaggerated anecdotes? And that's how I lost my best sock in an argument with a duck. Honest. In the muted twilight of this medieval existence, remember those tales of yesteryears, intertwined with the absurd, the moments that reminded them, through hard work and laughter, of what it means to truly thrive. Situations that, although wrapped in humility, seemed to brighten the horizon like the best kind of bonfire stories. Silly, maddening, and ultimately unforgettable. And as we drift deeper into the embrace of this realm, it becomes clear. Behind every rough hand lies a legacy that transcends wealth, an indomitable spirit tucked humorously between patched roofs and crooked fences. It's a gentle reminder that in this complex tapestry of life, every stitch of effort weaves together the fabric of who we are, hilariously imperfect, beautifully human, and undeniably relatable. So, let's raise a toast. Not a fancy goblet, but perhaps a slightly chipped wooden bowl, filled with the best soup we can muster, and toast to the legacy of that weathered old man, his silent strength, and, of course, all the splendidly crooked endeavors that remind us of the heart, humor, and humility that built this noble life. And there you have it, dear dreamers. From the heartfelt musings of our weathered friend to the legacy of invisible labor that spun the very fabric of medieval life, may your dreams be infused with the warmth of shared labor, laughter, and the delightful awkwardness that fills our human stories. If you enjoyed this whimsical journey through time, remember to like, subscribe, and sprinkle a comment about your own hilariously relatable moments. Sleep soundly, knowing that history wraps around us like a cozy quilt full of charming tales, each thread a little ludicrous, but all wonderfully connected. Good night.
Chapter 25. A Window into the Afterlife.
Hey guys, welcome back to our cozy corner where history tickles your funny bone more than a feather-wielding jester. Tonight, we begin with something colder than your ex's heart. The chilly traditions of late medieval life, where letting in the night air meant just as much to a passing soul as it did to the drafty cottage you find yourself in. Imagine a small, dimly lit cottage nestled in a village with the kind of draft that could make even a ghost shiver. Seriously, if shadows had shivers, you'd see them quaking in the corners right now. In this quaint abode, an elderly woman, let's call her Granny Gwendolyn, opens a leaded window, allowing a late-night draft to sweep through. That's right, folks. This isn't just window dressing. It's a heartfelt community tradition to bid farewell to the occasional soul making its way to a place devoid of frost-bitten toes and questionable stew choices. Do you think Grandma has an annual draft warm-up routine? Maybe she stands there, flexing her fingers, whispering to the night, "Oh yes, sweetie, send the chilies my way. We want an icy farewell." Ever pondered how many passing souls actually got stuck in the window? Perhaps they just needed a gentle nudge, or worse, a strong cup of chamomile. Just think about that next time you're sipping tea. Do we even like it? Or are we just fulfilling some archaic tradition of spiritual hospitality? Dim the lights, maybe pull a fuzzy blanket over your lap, and settle into a chair that creaks more than your knees after a long day. Because just like a pair of mismatched socks, it's time to cozy up to the peculiarities of life in 1300 AD, a time when allowing a spirit to escape was less about ghostbusters and more about neighborly love and chilly air. So tighten those belts and prepare your hearts. Did you ever wonder how a medieval peasant, whose biggest decision was whether to go for the stale loaf of bread or the more nutritional turnip, felt about their options? How did they decide the fate of these culinary masterpieces? Did it involve some sort of ceremonial dance with the turnip in question? And let's not forget about the delightful dilemma of exploring their feelings toward bathwater, a treasure so prized it could last for weeks before someone jumps in and decides it's time for the change, and that change smells like yesterday's soup. Ah, yes. Congratulations. You just woke up in 1300 AD, where the sun, or what little of it actually penetrated the storm clouds, peeks uneasily through that very same leaded window. It's a late autumn night, the kind that invites all manners of chill deep into your bones, and you can hear the soft hum of Granny Gwendolyn mumbling about the previous occupants of the afterlife. "Now mind you," she croaks, stuffing a tattered shawl closer around her shoulders, "the last soul who passed through here thought they could use the loo without knocking. A real ruckus that one caused." The cottage practically breathes around you,
each creaking beam and drafty corner woven with tales of those who have come and gone. Picture how this dimly lit space transforms into a celestial waiting room. The center of it all is Granny, who you'd think would clear a spot for the dearly departed, but no. Instead, she laments over her last cabbage soup recipe. It was almost perfect, but really, when it rains, croaking is just unavoidable. Ah, the smells. You've got the earthy tang of damp wood mingling with remnants of last night's supper. Cabbage violently fights for room in your nostrils, and a faint whiff of something suspicious, which could either be last week's pie or evidence of some mouse's culinary ambitions. "A feast for the gods!" Granny shouts as she tosses a few scraps out the window, just in case any local spirits are looking for an appetizer. As the night deepens, you can hear the wind outside sounding suspiciously like the complaints of villagers facing the first frost of the season. It's a symphony of existential angst, punctuated by the occasional faint moan of a disgruntled ghost. Or perhaps that's just Tobias from 2 cottages down, arguing with a goat. Who can say? Thus, the air is filled with both warmth and cold, like that awkward moment when you realize you've chosen the wrong beverage at a party. Let's hear it for that iconic medieval combination of social obligation and supernatural hospitality, shall we? The very idea of opening a window to usher away a restless spirit while muttering about last night's cabbage soup definitely adds a splash of absurdity. Imagine scrolling through your old medieval parchment for a best practices guide on how to deal with wayward souls and first frost. Tip 1. Always charge the nachos ahead of time. And tip 2. Gone but not forgotten, especially if the new ghost gets moody over last week's leftovers. And here you are, cozy in this cottage where ice-cold air dances through the room, sprinkling a slight chill onto your shoulders, while reminding you that your actual bed is just a few paces away. Much more inviting than what passes for a night's sleep here. But Gwendolyn isn't thinking about comfort. She's got her own methods of holding on to warmth, and the spirits she's seen flutter through her window like an ill-prepared bat on a diet. So, while Granny Gwendolyn speaks sweetly to the frosty air, every time you feel a cold draft, think of it as her subtle way of saying, "It's not just a window, dear. It's an ethereal passageway to the other side, where everybody gets their just desserts, even if it's a bit soggy." And there you have it, dear dreamers. We've explored how invisible labor and an open window are all part of the odd tapestry weaving the adventures of medieval life. Remember, behind every shiver lies a ghostly chuckle, and perhaps even a community soup pot filled with laughter and a twist of cabbage. If you enjoyed this chilly and charming journey into the past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own ghostly tales or cabbage soup disasters in the comments. May you drift off wrapped in the warmth of history and the affectionate absurdities that fill our nights. Sleep soundly. As the day in this medieval world finally draws to a close, we can feel the weight of it settling into tired bones. From cold stone floors to smoky hearths, from aching hands to endless small tasks that never truly ended, survival itself was a full-time labor. Every hour demanded effort. Every comfort came at the cost of someone else's exhaustion. And yet, somehow, life carried on. Often grim, sometimes absurd, and occasionally laughable in its stubborn refusal to be easy. There's a strange kind of humor in it all. The slipped rushes on the hall floor, the stubborn embers that refused to catch, the endless battle between warmth and cold, hunger and hope. Even in the hardest routines, people laughed where they could, not because life was gentle, but because laughter made it bearable. It stitched moments of humanity into days that otherwise blurred together in toil. Tonight, we honor those unseen hands, the servants, laborers, cooks, washers, and caretakers whose names history forgot, but whose work held everything upright. They endured without applause,
They adapted without complaint. Their resilience wasn't loud or heroic, it was quiet, steady, and relentless. As you rest now, wrapped in warmth they could never imagine, let gratitude settle gently over you. Clean water, soft beds, light at the flick of a switch, silence without fear. These comforts are ordinary to us, but they would have felt miraculous then. So let the echoes of medieval life fade softly away. The fires dim, the halls grow quiet. Tomorrow's labor no longer presses at the door. Breathe slowly. Let your thoughts loosen their grip. You are safe. You are warm. You are done for the day. And with that gentle knowing, allow sleep to come. Slow, peaceful, and unhurried.